before we start for the arrival of two of our board members. Everyone's here. We will now call to order the May 4th, 2021 Lynchburg City School Board meeting to order. And we are grateful to our community, and we trust everyone is safe in the weather conditions of tonight. And as usual, we are observing our social distancing protocols that we have, and we're grateful for all who tune in with us via our LCS YouTube channel, as well as our Comcast channel rebroadcast at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. accordingly. We will, of course, move through our agenda tonight as prescribed and featured on board docs. We will now move to Section B, 1, which is the approval of our agenda, and you have received the agenda, members of the board, prior to today, and the chair would entertain a motion at this time to approve the agenda that we have before us tonight.
I move that we approve the agenda.
All right, it's been moved by Dr. Carter, seconded by Ms. Morrison, that we would approve our agenda as presented tonight. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, the motion carries. The chair would now like to entertain a motion to amend the agenda that we approved for the consideration of the board to add to our new business section J, item J8, which would be around the discussion of governor's school slots, in which we do need to make a decision tonight relative to that. Is there a motion of such? Dr. Brennan would like to make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Carter, that we will add J8, governor's school slots, to our agenda. Any questions or discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries, and so ordered. At this time, we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for that. We will now move to Section C of our agenda for tonight, and the school board chair recommends that the school board would have a motion and approve to convene a closed meeting to discuss the following as permitted by the Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A8, consultation with legal counsel, and Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1, appointment or promotion of particular officers, appointees, or employees. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting.
I move that we go into closed meeting.
Been moved by Dr. Carter. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Morrison. That we go into closed meeting. Any further questions or discussion? Then the motion is before us. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the motion carries. And board, we will now retire to our regular room behind us. And we want the public to know that we will dispatch of this as quickly as we can, as we will be seeking advice and counsel on the issue of collective bargaining and other matters as so stipulated. entertain a motion to come out of our closed meeting.
I move that we come out of the closed meeting.
So moved by Dr. Carter. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Brennan. Any further question or discussion on the matter? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. And now the chair would entertain a motion that the school board approve the certification of the closed meeting in accordance with the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3712, that the matters that we discussed were around the issues of counsel on collective bargaining and appointees or employees. And we'll begin with, school board member Evans.
Yes.
Yes.
Morrison, Carter, Dr. Brennan.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Millis.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Gutar.
Yes.
And Mr. Evans. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all very much. And we will now move to Section D, which is our public comments. And tonight, in accordance with the said policies, we will have our comments to be shared tonight. And those comments that we have tonight are all in person. And so those individuals have signed up in advance. And I would like to read the following statement. Persons appearing before the school board would not be allowed to campaign for public office or promote private business ventures and should not use profanity or vulgar language or gestures, make comments about a public official or an employee that are not related to his or her official duties, engage in behavior that disrupts the meetings or intimidates others, or address the school board on issues that do not concern the services, policies, role, and/or responsibilities of the school board. Individual speakers shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. A speaker representing a group shall limit his or her comments to 5 minutes. A representative shall identify the group at the beginning of his or her presentation. A group may have no more than one spokesperson, and the total allotted time for public comments at the school board meeting is 30 minutes, and are reserved for the public to provide input. And so at this time, we will move forward, remembering that the board does not respond to comments, answer questions, or otherwise engage in discussion at this time. And our first person that will come with public comments tonight is Mr. Andrew Glover, who is representing conservative parents of Lynchburg, discussing transportation, advanced classes, and masks. Mr. Glover.
Good evening, Lynchburg. Good evening, Lynchburg City School Board. My name is Andrew Glover. I'm an LCS parent, and I represent the conservative parents of Lynchburg, a group of over 200 Lynchburg families, teachers, and LCS staff members. Our group has 3 separate concerns to share tonight, so I apologize in advance if I speak quickly. First, several parents in our group have expressed a significant frustration with LCS's busing and transportation department since reopening lower grade levels to the 4-day school schedule. In one of the worst cases, a Go Center student was late by 30 to 40 minutes all 4 days of that school week, resulting in her being late all 4 days. Our group has actually shared our concerns regarding the transportation issue both publicly and privately in emails on several occasions, and continue to be disappointed that LCS has done nothing to solve the broken transportation department, despite several options being presented by our group to you. Last week, at the Lynchburg City Council meeting, it was agreed to spend over $300,000 in CARES funding to replace a broken intercom system at the EC Glass High School. The concern is that CARES is for dealing with stresses resulting from the pandemic and not general maintenance. The conservative parents of Lynchburg would urge you to invest that CARES funding instead in solving transportation problems, which actually is pandemic related, rather than to support an infrastructure project. Next, I'd like to vocalize a real concern regarding the changes or potential changes being made by the Virginia Department of Education in regards to standardization of classes for the sake of perceived equality. We fully understand that you are not VDOE, but we ask you to stand firm in your commitment to both the continuation of advanced level classes for all grades, as well as the continuation of individual learning paths. Quite simply put, all students are different. All students learn at different speeds, in different ways, and in different environments. And we are highly concerned with the idea of consolidating classes into a single path that all students must follow, essentially limiting opportunity for some students while at the same time placing other students who aren't ready for certain concepts in that same class, causing them to stumble as well. There's a particular concern about engineering colleges and how they'll treat our students if they lack the mathematic competence colleges require. We'd hate to see Lynchburg students and Virginia students shut out of engineering and science careers because of this. Education is an individual student's pursuit, and we need to not penalize our strong students for exceeding their expectations or fail weaker students for not meeting unrealistic expectations. And again, we understand you are not VDOE, but we do want you to hold firm in that. Finally, we'd like to once again return to a topic that we've asked you to address in the past: masks in schools. Right now, we're over a year into the pandemic, and we have readily available data from right here in our community that shows that COVID-19 cases within the student population are extremely small. In fact, more students were hospitalized with the flu in 2019 than were hospitalized by COVID in 2020. Now that every teacher who wants one has received the COVID-19 vaccination, it is time to stop requiring students to wear masks 100% of the day. While our group would advocate for a complete removal of the mask requirement, we understand about taking measured steps in reaching that goal. So we are asking the school board once again to consider removing the mask requirement when students are either outside, a measure that is now supported by the CDC, as well as when students are stationary at their desks. It's time to return this community to normal, and only you have the ability to make those steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. And again, this board appreciates all of the individuals who come for public comments over and over, and we appreciate that very much. And tonight, two individuals are also joining Mr. Glover, different from his group as individuals. And I hope I have this right, and if I don't, they will have me corrected. But we're going to first hear from Michael Vary around grading policy, and then Elizabeth Vary around student engagement. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Michael Vary with my wife Elizabeth Vary, a Marine Corps veteran, honorably discharged. Also to speak, we have one daughter currently attending LCS. We have 4 daughters altogether. Our daughters are AA or AAA. At one point or another, an LCS done a fine job preparing for them. For this, we extend our gratitude. Diversified, broad-based offerings of public school education can provide over and above private schools. How many of the board members actually have or had or currently have children attending LCS? I can't ask the question, but raise your hand. Interesting. Okay. So no one should dispute the prioritization and execution of LCS's COVID safeguard measures. Let me just stop it there. I'm going to pick up where I left off from attending April 13th. At the end of the day, what is the most important statistic for this year's school program performance-wise? Would it be fair to say the number of missing assignments per student per day? So, yes, thank you for missing assignments, emails, improvements. Superintendent, I understand, and looking at your bio, you have quite a bit of math on your bio. That's great, especially as a Nittany Lion. I'm interested to see why isn't LCS transparent with the student academic performance statistics. That's the most important agenda item here. I actually called on a parent advisory council person the other day, and I said, what kind of came up this year? I wish I would have volunteered. I mean, up until now, LCS has done a fine job, again, but now this has kind of opened up some things, and I've called on members here over the past year, as I said, on April 13th. The Parent Advisory Council person said, we talk about budget and some other things. What about student academic performance? For those with a Master or Doctor of Education, is it fair to say the continuous lack of in-person or some level of school structure be the main detriment in academic performance of an LCS-level student versus a college-level-minded student? Google class schedule is fine as a start, but how is it applied to engage the students? One item that needs to be addressed, as we're in the fourth quarter now and we're trying to dig in, needs to be addressed. Although most teachers appear to be offer flexibility with grading assignments, there are those who appear not extending of a pragmatic or commensurate level of contingency for grading this year, and this is wrong. There appears not to be consistency from one teacher to another. I took liberty to call Heritage High School, compared with E.C. Glass High School. Two particular teachers are taking off different points. That's inconsistent. There were some teachers insisting on normal grading policy since August. For example, one course subject at E.C. Glass is knocking off 50% for late work, whereas Heritage High School is knocking off 30%. So the student having turned in all late work, otherwise worthy of full credit, would still only receive half the credit. This goes back to questioning LCS.
Mr. Vare,
Yes.
Due to time,
Fine.
we certainly invite you to come back another time and continue to share, but we have a 3-minute time frame for individuals, and we thank you for coming tonight. And now we'll hear from Elizabeth Vare.
We're here to work together to get new real feedback, y'all. We're here to work with you all.
Thank you, sir. Oh, absolutely. Do what we can to help, but I don't know what you can do.
As my husband stated, Lynchburg City Schools should be applauded for the dynamicism that they've had in the past. The ability to walk and chew gum at the same time. Although this year has been a little bit, of course, challenging. And there are 4 points that I'd like to have you consider. One is the engagement. 2, structure. 3, inconsistencies, as my husband has stated. And the 4th thing is that I would implore immediate, conscious look at what we're doing, who we're going to ask to repeat something. We don't have a measure. There's no measure of what this is doing to our kids, but we can go to the National Institute of Health and American Scientific and find statistics, and this community is not immune to it. For our adolescent, this COVID year probably has seemed like a 2 or 3 year to them. They do not have the coping mechanisms, the maturity level, as we all adults assume that they have. And to think that schoolwork is the highlight of their day. I think a lot of kids are paralyzed by the isolation. And the idea that I'm hearing the teachers recommend that the kids need to contact the teacher. Again, they are all at different maturity levels. And who, even as adults, we can look around and see how we want to claim our insufficiency. The kids do not need that either. Excuse me. And then I guess the last thing I want to bring up is the attendance question. There are so many people, and I tried to gather information. I tried to make sure it was just not me. The attendance question that we're getting, maybe we can make it a little bit more engaging. Maybe we can rope it in at 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 3 in the afternoon. And believe me, I understand there may be inconsistencies, that we may not be able to achieve that. But roping in a child at 10 a.m. in the morning is much better than giving them leeway to hop on.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's keep them engaged.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe we should be asking them in the attendance question, what keeps you engaged?
Thank you, Ms. Valerie. We want to thank Mr. Andrew Glover, Mr. Michael Valerie, and Elizabeth Valerie for coming tonight for public comments, and the board will govern themselves accordingly. We're now moving our agenda to Section E, Student Representative Comments. And first, we will have Jaden Scott from EC Glass, followed by Grayson Arnold from Heritage High School.
All right, hi guys. I feel like it's really been forever since I've come on, so I'm about to share my screen so I can get started with the presentation.
Our technical support, if we could have the visual on the screen, we would appreciate it.
I believe the equipment that allows you to see the visual, the participants on the Zoom can see you all or see the board, but the piece of equipment is not functioning properly, so we're not able to see them, so we'll just have to listen to the
Our
presentation.
Deputy Superintendent has spoken, and we will govern ourselves accordingly. Go right ahead, Jaden, and please.
All right. So to start off, I want to give a special shout out to our teachers. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. So we do want to thank all of our wonderful, amazing teachers at EC Glass. We appreciate them every day of the year, but especially during this week. And we also want to appreciate their efforts that have been made during the pandemic. There are so many first-year teachers, so many experienced teachers, but still this is a very new situation that we're dealing with. So the fact that we have so many teachers ready, willing, and able to help in our community means so much to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then next we have recognition for our top 15 2021 graduates. So every year the LCS Education Foundation partners with Lynchburg City Schools to recognize and honor the top 15 scholars from each school. And normally there's an event held and you're in person to celebrate your accomplishments, but this year it was held virtually. And so I want to take the time to acknowledge the EC Glass top 15, and that is Ben Barnett, Drew Flint, Ryan Gallagher, Sam Height, Megan Knight, Cynthia Lamb, William Langford, Dylan Mayang, Hollins Pipe Point, Preston Pitzer, Wolfgang Plotch, Kathleen Salmon, Randall Trost, Sean Weiger, and Lila Williams. I do apologize if I said anybody's name wrong, but I do want to give you all your recognition. And also there's a picture on the slideshow of all of them, but I do want to draw some attention to the very first row. There's Grayson Arnold on here. She is one of the top 15 2021 graduates. So definitely want to say congratulations, Grayson. Yes. And then next, for our seniors, we also had a celebration to graduation. So this was a drive-through event that was hosted for our class 21. Seniors drove around campus. They collected t-shirts, other things that would prepare them for graduation, and other things like so much more. And we want to thank Horizon Behavioral Health, the prom sponsors, Mama Crockett's Donuts, Upper Crust, High Peak, Jostin's, Beacon of Hope, and Mrs. Visen Spitzer for making this possible. Once again, I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. And then here are some pictures. So we just have a group of guys, and then we have some people who were lined up in the cars. And we also have our SRO. We love her. She's always in our pictures. And so, a lot of this is focused on seniors because their graduation is coming up. But lastly, we have Decision Day, and this was celebrated May 1st, and our seniors had the opportunity to announce their future plans. Beacon of Hope had our seniors send in pictures with their information, like where they were going, and as well as what they wanted to major in. So then we have some pictures We have some students going to HBCUs like Norfolk State or Winston-Salem. And then we also have students going to Virginia Tech, Old Dominion. And then we also have students doing the Stay Close, Go Far program. So then we have University of Lynchburg, we have CVCC. And there was also a girl who went to Loyola. She went to Louisiana. I didn't include her because I couldn't fit everybody in here, but I thought that was great. So we have students going all over. And then yesterday, I actually had the opportunity to go to this, and it was an amazing event. So yesterday morning, we had our historical marker dedication for Edward Christian Glass. So a little bit about him. He became the superintendent of the public school system in 1879 at the age of 26. Now, I think that's amazing because I couldn't imagine being a superintendent over a whole school system at 26. But he did it, and he served in this position for about 53 years. And then he also established a summer teacher institute that trained thousands of students from trained thousands of teachers from all over Virginia. And he also has just a very long list of accomplishments, which is why in 1920, Lynchburg High School was renamed after him. So in the event, we had the nieces and nephews, sons and daughters, just all of the family was noticed and acknowledged, and he was recognized. And we do want to give a special thank you to Jessica Barger, Greta Ford, Jane White, and Kay Vaughn for making the event possible. They were in charge of organizing, and it was a beautiful event. Also, I do want to thank Glass's JROTC as well as the band. They were there, they performed, and ROTC came out with the flags and everything, and it was just a really nice event. So I wanted to thank them as well. And also, School Library Month is this week, so we do want to thank Mrs. Wise and Mrs. Mayberry for all of their contributions to EC Glass. Librarians really help form our journey, and they help us along the way. So we do want to say thank you to all of them and for their dedication and their persistence and helping and aiding us through our high school experience. And lastly, I do want to give a special shout out to Grayson. Once again, this was supposed to be in one of my past presentations, but Grayson placed first in states for shot put. So I did want to give some light to her because that's amazing. Not only is she winning states titles, she's a top 15 scholar. I think that's pretty amazing, the fact that she can balance both of those out. And she's also in dual enrollment. I think that's really good. Sorry, had to put her on the spot right there. So that's my Pioneer Spotlight for the month. And also I wanted to give just some quick facts, quick links for LCS, for ECG. AP testing has started. So if you're in an AP class and you know that you have an exam, please get in contact with Mrs. Wise so that you can make sure that you're there, whether it's in person or if it's online, that you're there and able to take it, as well as SOLs. SOLs are in place and they have started for not only remote students, but for hybrid too. So all students, make sure that you check and make sure that if you have an SOL that you're there. They're given on Mondays, and there's a schedule up. If you go to the newsletter that Mrs. Wise sends out, there's a schedule. You can see what day you can go in, what time, and get that done. Also, the STEM Accelerate Academy has extended their application deadline to May 14th, and that's a program for juniors and seniors at CVCC. Also, Stay Close, Go Far. 2 years of free college at CVCC is amazing, an amazing opportunity. I would encourage any and everybody to take advantage of it, and the application is due Saturday 15th at 11:59 p.m. And the last two things are extracurriculars for Glass. We have cheerleading, and there's a mandatory interest meeting May 12th at 5 p.m. And there's an interest form on the ECG newsletters as well. Please go there if you want to fill it out and attend the meeting. And then lastly, marching band. They have open rehearsals on Thursdays from 3 to 4:30 until the end of the school year. So if you want to do marching band or color guard, make sure you get out there and show them what you've got. And that is it. I thank you all so much for your time and for having me.
Thank you, Jaden. It always do such a wonderful job, and we appreciate it. As we prepare now for Grayson's report, we do want to make sure that our clerk would forward these presentations to the board members so that you can see it. But you're also welcome to join in on the YouTube channel, and you can see them as they are being presented now. All right, go right ahead, Grayson.
Hello. Hello everyone. I hope everyone's having a nice day, nice Tuesday. I would first just like to apologize. I will be doing a verbal report today. I am swamped with CBCC. It is our exam week, so I've been a little busy, but I do have all the great information for our school. So I'm just going to get started with some of the past events and things that have happened back in April. So April 14th, the day right after our last school board meeting, there was a Zoom panel for athletes for NCAA eligibility. This was for athletes from 9th grade to 11th grade. And the NCAA eligibility process is confusing. So this was very nice that the athletic department provided this. So yeah, I know that a lot of students could have used that a little bit earlier on. But yeah, so then after that, college knowledge panels by our great Beacon of Hope, they had one on entrepreneur careers. So these careers were, again, on Zoom, and a nice little panel for students who are interested to learn about. Then there was FAFSA night for seniors, which was so important because FAFSA, that's a trip right there. But yeah, other than that, we also today at 7 o'clock there's a Zoom for the the Big Orange marching machine, and I encourage you all to go to that Zoom if you're interested, so you can really get in and get connected. So yeah, some upcoming events that we have is our the Rogers and Hammerstein's Cinderella performance. It opens up Friday, May 14th. So we recommend going to the Heritage High School Facebook page. And if you scroll down maybe like 2 or 3 posts, you'll be able to find the different times and stuff. But it opens up this Friday or next Friday. So go and enjoy. Pioneer Achievements. The Pioneer Theater group won districts. So they won first place in the district, which is wild to think that they're able to compete just like I'm able to beat for track, but doing the arts, which is amazing to me. But anyway, sorry. They won with their one act, A Crowded Room. It was nice from what I heard. I have some friends in theater. They said that it went really well, and they're super, super excited to be able to say the district champs. The next thing I would like to highlight is our football team. So our first team, all area recognized boys, Zach Steele, Keyshawn Hubbard, Carson Adcock, Deuce Crawford, and Emerson Coleman. So they're out there doing their thing in football. Sadly, our season has ended, but they're doing their thing. And it was good to have them recognized. Next, we have our LCS Education Foundation Top 30. Shout out to all the Glass's Top 15. I'm really all over the place today. And then shout out to Heritage. So I would like to just take the time to acknowledge each and every person. So yeah. So we have myself, Jalaisha Jones, Maya Lewis, Dustin Manning, Alicia Mays, Sana Mustafa, Alexis Petty, Charlie Smallshaw, Angel Thompson, Maris Tiller, Anna Venters, Kivana Woodcox, Desiree Younger, Morgan Zahabi, and finally Jane Lynn. So shout out to all of my peers. It's amazing to be able to say that I'm on this list. And I know that we've put in a lot of hard work, and it shows. So I would just like to finish off talking about 2 different things. First off, seniors, we're about to graduate. It's amazing. It's exciting. It's new. New doors are about to open. Graduation is 9 o'clock Sunday, May 31st. Please be ready. It'll be great. It's going to be fun. And remember that you're going to have 12 tickets, but make sure that you're there Saturday, May 30th for rehearsal and all that, so you can get your tickets and all that stuff. May 10th, for Heritage High School seniors, you will receive your cap and gown from 12 to 6, so you can swing by, and I think it's a nice little event too. We're gonna have some fun things in store for us. And then Beacon of Hope just sent out an email today. We're doing our own decision day, May 15th. They're gonna, on that May 10th date, we're gonna take pictures and stuff with different regalia from our school. So bring that, be prepared. And they'll post it on May 15th. And then finally, I'd just like to say thank you to all of our teachers. It's Teachers Appreciation Week. We thank you for everything that you do, from helping us study, giving us study tips, giving us little tricks to get through problems and equations. We thank you for being a listening ear and a mentor for us. So I just want to say thank you to all of our teachers, and thank you to the school board for just allowing me to speak. And yeah, again, I'm sorry for not having a presentation, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Grayson. And I do want to just pause if there's anything pertinent that any of our board members want to say to Jaden or Grayson. Of course, we will have maybe a work session, but this is really their last meeting before graduation. Dr. Brennan.
Jaden and Grayson, as the school board liaison to the student reps for the LCS board, I just want to thank both of you so much for what you've done. I think you really have both been outstanding with your presentations and your commitment to the board, and we just can't thank you enough. We know it's been a hard year for you in many ways, but you've been such a great addition to this unit, and we appreciate it. And I think Jaden may be a junior, so perhaps you will come back next year. And Grayson, congratulations on all your successes this year, and we certainly wish you much luck in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right. I think Dr. Brennan's comment sums up the thoughts of the entire board. And can we just pause for just a moment and give both of them a great big hand? Excellent work all year long, and we thank you all for your great accomplishments, each of you as well. We will now move in our agenda to section F1, which is our finance report covering the stated period necessary through March the 31st. Dr. Edwards.
Absolutely. Get to Mike. And I'm going to ask Ms. Lakonich to give the finance report.
Good evening. As Dr. Coleman alluded, we are going to be presenting the finance report through March 31st, 2021. The operating budget remains steady as the prior month of $101,886,769.97. The revenue received to date is 63.27%. The expenditure to that date is 64.67%. The expenditures, including encumbrances, is sitting at 91.87%. I have provided detailed revenue reports as well as detailed expenditure reports. I'm willing to take any questions if you have anything.
All right, this satisfies goal 3 of our fiscal responsibility every board meeting. Any questions for Mr. Carnage? All right, you've done a wonderful job, Mr. Carnage. No questions at this time, and so we will move on in our agenda. Thank you for your report. Item G, and board members, please take note of the fact that you, as usual, can pull anything from the consent agenda if necessary. But tonight we have before us school board meeting minutes from April the 13th, 2021, the work session minutes from April the 20th, and we have a human resources report, an annual human resources report, and the human resources report addendum. And so this is coming to us tonight for your review and for action. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? All right, Ms. Morrison is making the motion. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Brennan. Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor of approving the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion carries. And now Dr. Edwards.
Absolutely. And within our consent agenda, we have 2 very special announcements for administrative positions within the division. The first, as you know, Steve Gatsky moved up to be a senior director, leaving his position, Director of Facilities, vacant for some time since he's moved up. We have had a very robust interview process, 2 rounds and selection, and it is my great pleasure to announce the new Director of Facilities, our very own Mr. Don Floyd, who was previously the Assistant Director of Facilities and has been with us since 2007. So we are excited to have Mr. Floyd join us as our new Director of Facilities, and he will be reporting to Mr. Gatsky as a part of that responsibility. Also on the list, one of the things that we are moving forward with is our virtual academy, and part of Return to Learn, last time Ms. Pugh gave you some statistics regarding families who have preliminarily expressed interest. That window has not closed yet, has it, Ms. Pugh?
The application process closed May 1st.
May 1st, okay. So we are diligently trying to find a leader for the virtual academy, someone who has had both elementary, middle, and high school experience. And we are excited to announce the virtual academy principal as being one of our LCS employees, Mr. Josh Boyd, who is currently the assistant principal at Sheffield Elementary School. So we are excited about the creativity, innovation, drive, and excitement he is going to bring to our virtual academy program once we get it up and running when school starts. In August 11th, I do believe is the first day of school next year, where we will be offering in-person learning 5 days a week, but also for those families who expressed interest in continuing virtual learning, there is a virtual learning option as well, and we welcome Mr. Josh Boyd to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards, and we welcome those individuals to their new roles and opportunities on the LCS team. Thank you all very much. With the consent agenda being approved now and appropriate announcements, we will now move to Section H, our school board member reports. And of course, we want clear, concise, and coherent reporting where it is necessary for us tonight. And all of these reports are generally for information. If you have something, please indicate. If not, it is indicated by saying you do not. Finance Committee Chair, Mr. Gary Harvey.
No report.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. And with the Governor's School Liaison role, Mr. Harvey?
We have our meeting tomorrow.
Thank you so much, board members, and we will have further discussion later under our new business section pertaining to the Gov School. Law Regional School Liaison, Sharon Carter.
No report. We have our meeting tomorrow.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. And for our STEM Academy Liaison, Dr. Michael Nillis.
No report.
Thank you, Dr. Nillis. Our Legislative Advocacy Committee Chair, Ms. Evans.
We meet on Monday.
Thank you so much, and that will be an important meeting. Thank you so much. And then from our task force, are there any new developments? Ms. Morrison.
We have no new developments. We probably will have a report in June.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ms. Morrison, and thank you, Dr. Gupta. All right, now we are at our unfinished business, Section I. And we're going to turn this over to Dr. Edwards to help us with our Return to Learn. And then Dr. Sinha will come on in with the dashboard.
Okay, so we will have a brief update of Return to Learn and a little bit about our summer programs as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Pugh.
Good evening. Just a few things to comment on about Return to Learn. Our pre-K to 5 students have settled into a 4-day instructional routine. And as a reminder, our 6th grade students begin 4 days of in-person learning next Tuesday, which is May the 11th. We continue to plan and work out details for both instruction and our health and safety mitigation for the fall. And now I'm going to ask Dr. Jordan, who's been working with some other staff members for the past couple of months on developing and putting things together for summer school information. She's going to talk about some program details as well as an update on staffing. Dr. Jordan?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will be offering quite a number of summer programs for all ages. The start date for all of the programs will be June 15th, and the programs will end on July 16th. There is one exception when you see this communication come out for new credit online courses at the high school level, and that start date is a little bit earlier. But again, that's an online opportunity for new credit. Elementary programs, we've got a partnership this year with the YMCA Power Scholars Program, and that program will be for pre-K through 5th grade students, so rising kindergarten through rising 6th. That program will operate from 8 to 3 on Tuesdays through Fridays, an academic morning and an afternoon of enrichment. The Power Scholars Program is designed to provide support for students who need additional help in reading and in math. The sites for the Power Scholars Program will be Bedford Hills, Perrymont, Heritage Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, R.S. Payne, and Bass. We've got a PEDAL program for our elementary students. And again, PEDAL stands for Promoting Excellence Through Accelerated Learning. And in elementary, PEDAL is for rising 2nd through 6th grade students. And this is for students who are on grade level or above and are recommended for acceleration in reading and in math. This program will also operate Tuesdays through Fridays from 8 to 3. The morning will be academic and the afternoon will be filled with enrichment activities. The sites for the elementary PEDAL program will be Bedford Hills and Perrymont. Middle school, our offerings for rising 7th grade through rising 9th grade students will operate from 9 to 2 Tuesday through Friday at Heritage High School. This will be an academic focus on literacy and math. We'll also have some enrichment opportunities in the afternoons for our middle school students. And again, this program is focusing on students who need additional help in literacy and math. We also have a PEDAL program for middle school students, and again, promoting excellence through accelerated learning. And at the middle school, this program is designed for students to attend accelerated math opportunities. So at the middle school level, this is focused on math only. High school, we have credit recovery. So current 9th through 12th grade students who did not pass a class this year. So it's for students who will need to repeat a full year course credit. This opportunity will be from 9 to 2 each day at Heritage High School on the days Tuesday through Friday as well. Students who also want to retake a course, maybe they didn't fail the course, but they know that they didn't master the content this year, will have the opportunity to attend credit recovery. And these will be facilitated lessons through in-person teachers and also using an online platform called Edgenuity. There will be an SOL Academy at the high school level because high schoolers need verified credits to graduate. So this will be designed for students mainly in grades 11 and 12 who passed a course but failed the associated SOL test. There will be designated weeks for the content, and they'll take the SOL at the end of that week. There's also a pedal program for high school students to attend accelerated math courses. We will have an Algebra 2 opportunity this summer for pedal students. We will continue offering new credit courses for 2 high school courses only, and that will be Health and PE 9 and Economics and Personal Finance, as we have done in the past. The dates for those courses are a little bit different. They start on June the 7th, so they start right after school is over. And the cost for those courses is $225 per course. If you have any questions, you can reach out to counseling departments at the school, or you can reach out to the C&I department, and we'll be happy to talk you through any questions or concerns that you might have. And if parents absolutely want their students involved in an opportunity, we will do our best to help place students in these programs.
All right. Ms. Pugh, had you completed your comments?
I have, thank you.
I want to thank Director Jordan. You answered everything I wanted to know about the summer school. I've got it all down, and I hope all that are listening have taken it in, and I'm sure, Dr. Edwards, this will be circulated over and over and over again. Board questions at this time. Dr. Nilles.
So where is this available for parents to view?
I believe that Dr. Jordan is working with the communications department, and I believe the communication is going out to families tomorrow, if not tomorrow, within the next couple of days, and it will also be available on the LCS website.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nilles, for raising that question, because that is very important, that people have access to it and everyone is aware of it. That's wonderful. Anyone else have a question? Ms. Evans?
I just wanted to say I'm glad to hear that it's not just for students who have fallen behind. I love that we also are offering not help, but offering something for students who are in accelerated math and to continue with that, so the whole spectrum of kids. And there are a lot of different choices, and I'm happy about that.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the return to learn today. Thank you very much. And we'll work excuse me, I'm sorry, Dr. Brennan.
I have a question unrelated to summer school. Dr. Coleman, is it but return to learn? Is this an appropriate time to ask that question?
Please go forward.
So I'm sorry I sound like a broken record, but once again, I want to thank the staff for getting the students back into school for the last month and getting the 6th graders back in, I think, next week, which is awesome. I want to thank Ms. Brown once again for the vaccine program that she has set up. And as an example of how quickly things change with COVID, we talked last week about when 12-year-olds will be able to vaccinate, and it looks like it may happen within the next week or two. So it looks like teachers and a majority of students will have the ability to be vaccinated, which will be such a benefit to the schools. One question I have for the Return to Learn team to consider is, have they thought about the idea of adjusting based on Governor Northam's recommendations for wearing masks outside? Have we considered the idea of not having students wear masks when they're on recess or outside the school, or is that a concept that could be discussed by the Return to Learn team?
Absolutely. And I believe Director Brown, are you on the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to address that?
Yes. Yes, that can be addressed, and we're going to bring some information to you when we come to the May 18th work session to address that, and then some of the quarantine as well, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Brown. Seeing no other, Ms. Morrison, I'm so sorry, Ms. Morrison, go right ahead.
I was just wondering about the plans to offer the vaccine to students in school. Did I miss that?
We sent out communication for 16, 17-year-olds and above. We sent information to families about where they could receive the vaccination. There was a clinic, I believe, on the 21st of April from 3:30 to 6:30 at the old TJ Maxx site that was hosted by the City of Lynchburg, and then some LCS staff were involved in that as well. We are currently having conversations. Director Brown and I had a short conversation today about next steps for when the vaccine will be available for 12 to 15-year-olds and how we'll address that as a division.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Very important. Those 12 to 15-year-olds, you're going to let us know. We appreciate that. Anyone else? All right, we'll now hear from Dr. Sinha.
On the whole, things continue to look pretty good, although our case count is up for the week. Too soon to tell whether that's a trend, but it's reversing a downward trend. Test positivity rate for the health district is below 5, but for City of Lynchburg is up closer to 10. Based on locality stats, so that's something to keep an eye on. And for vaccinations, we're over half of Lynchburgers have had at least one vaccine shot, so that's looking pretty good so far.
Great. Any questions for Dr. Sinha? Thank you for that information, and we're going to keep being a good community and move things forward for the full benefit of our students, our children. All right, thank you very much, and we are appreciative to each board member that is working hard on your respective working groups. And so at this time, we're going to ask Dr. Edwards to lead us as we have our governance policy updates, followed by human resources policy updates.
Absolutely, and the governance group met on March 25th. This is the second read of these policies, and I will say the change between the first and second read is on policy BDDHZKDZ, public participation, where we adjusted the last line of the policy to eliminate the number of folks. I do believe that there was a question about a limit of 6 people who could speak during public comment, and since we have a 30-minute window and individuals can speak 3, groups can speak 5, we just took that out to follow the 30-minute window. So these policies are the same ones that you reviewed last time, and at this point I'll take any questions on any of them.
Any questions? This is before us for action tonight concerning these policies that are related around family and community engagement, and I think that they're relatively clear. Any discussion? And the chair certainly would entertain a motion to approve.
I have a question.
Yes, Dr. Nilles.
This is a general comment that I've always struggled with these policy updates. Some are driven by VSBA, some are internal. Some may be a combination of both. I really am always not unsure as to where the source of the change started. I mean, I would find that helpful. Just
so noted that as we continue to move through this, I think that it is helpful for the board to know the origination. Is it VSBA driven? Did a board member drive it or staff? And so thank you for that, Dr. Nilles. Is there anything particular you wanted to know about these tonight?
No, it's just a general comment.
Okay, thank you.
You know, just.
And typically, Dr. Nilles, on the first reading, we usually go through policy by policy to let you know, and I have notes from my last reading of these governance policies that says all of the ones that were presented were VSBA updates, along with what the changes were. Many of them were pronoun changes, taking out the word shall. So we typically try to give that information when we do the first read, but I can certainly repeat it during this when it's under unfinished business, if that would be helpful.
You know, I'm just wondering if it might not just be possible for there to be like a little key on the policy, draft policy, you know, underline is VSBA, dash, or line through is LCS, or I don't know, something along that line. Just And if nobody else has any heartburn about it, then I'll just struggle along, so.
I think we were color coding them, and Barbara's not here to confirm that, but I think the red changes were all the VSBA strike-throughs in the draft, and any language that we were trying to add, and I'll be able to see, we were trying to make it blue. It was a lot easier when we were using Google Docs to do it and not board docs, but I will check with Barbara to see that we can add that coding.
So and I'm not trying to hold your feet to the fire, but in the KDZ, the line, the red is our change.
Okay. Yes, so that should be.
And the other stuff, I think, was VSBA?
VSBA. Yes, the adjusting of the pronouns were VSBA, so any place you see.
Okay.
I don't have that one up.
Okay.
Thank you for raising that question, Dr. Nillis. And of course, one of the most important things we are tasked to do as a board is to update our policies and to put policies in place that will help us do what is best for kids. Ms. Evans?
I was going to say, when I send out my first round, it always says on the side, beside each policy, if it's a VSBA change or a Lynchburg, if we're changing it. It's right there on what we do on the meeting every week.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. Is there a motion at this time to approve the governance policy updates?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the governance policy updates.
All right, and so Dr. Brennan is making the motion. Ms. Morrison is seconding that motion for these stated governance policy updates. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? And the motion passes 9-0. Next.
Okay, I'll ask Ms. Cardwell to come up to the mic and assist as needed, but the Human Resources Policy Work Group also met on April 21st to review several policies along with Attorney Towns. And these, it's actually written in there, so, to Mike, to your point, so we can make sure that they all are kind of written this way, where you can see the top 4 policies were reviewed, which means they are probably anywhere from 3 to 5 years since the last eyes were laid on them to approve them. And then the remaining policies are all VSBA updates. And again, most of the VSBA changes, as I have noted, were removal of the word shall. That seems to be something that they are updating in all of their policies, as well as adjusting some of the pronoun references in the policies. And these are up for second read moving forward. And I don't know, Ms. Cardwell, is there anything you want to point out from this set of policies? Can't hear you.
The one that we actually made a change, Attorney Towns and I really looked at was the report for discrimination and harassment. We took that one and we revised it and combined it.
So that one's under new business. That was the one we just did.
Okay.
So we'll get to that when we get to the next section.
I see, okay.
So hold that comment, but everything else was pretty much
Yeah,
the
everything
same.
else is what you just said.
So, board members, govern yourselves accordingly on the last piece. That's for later in the agenda. But as is presented to us tonight, thank you, Dr. Edwards, and thank you, Ms. Cardwell. Is there a motion tonight to approve the human resource policy updates?
I have a question on.
Question, please.
Policy GCG. The staff probationary term was changed was originally 5 years and changed to 3 years. Is that a code change or what?
That actually, we had Attorney Towns review that. That is coming from the state, and it is a code. And I think historically, way back when, Lynchburg had the option to say we wanted it to be 5 years. Now it's a standard 3.
Thank you.
Chair still willing to entertain a motion?
Move that we accept these policies.
Been moved by Dr. Carter, seconded by Dr. Gupta, that we approve the human resource policy updates as stated in this section. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries 9-0. What is the pleasure of the board to take a 5-minute recess before we go into new business? We will recess for 5 minutes. everyone is. I do want to share with the board that we do work as hard as we can with your input always to make sure that our new business items are as tight and all-inclusive as possible. And we do want to get through these 8 items in Section G with making the best decisions possible. But if we could try to do it with clear, concise, and coherent and to the point discussion, I think where the action items are, we can dispense of them tonight. And so if all board members are ready, we will now go into Section J, 1. And our first item is a discussion around 2021-2022 school calendar. And there is a need for an adjustment that we have made a couple of years ago as well in the same fashion. Dr. Edwards.
Yep, and I'm going to ask Ms. Pugh to just kind of point out what the quick and the dirty is with the school calendar.
Yes, sir. So as Dr. Coleman said, 2 years ago, there was a team that drafted calendars that were brought to the school board for the 2020 and 21 school year, as well as the 21-22 school year. In reviewing the calendar for the 21-22 school year, it's come to our attention that spring break is late in April. It's scheduled for the April 18th through the 22nd, which only leaves 5 weeks until the end of the school year, which is on May 27th. We have some concerns about adequate instructional and review time before the start of SOL testing, as well as AP testing and high school exams. SOL tests require a 4-week window in order to allow for adequate time for retakes and makeup tests. And AP exams are scheduled for May 2nd through the 13th. In the past, we've had, in 18-19, we had 6 weeks to the end of the year. The same was true in 19-20. This year, we had 7.5 weeks between returning from spring break and the end of the school year. And Dr. Edwards and I discussed this at the Parent Advisory Committee meeting last week, as well as the Personnel Advisory Committee meeting last week, and shared our proposal. What I'm asking that you consider is adjusting the 2021-22 school calendar and moving spring break to the week prior, which would be April the 11th through the 15th, to allow for additional instructional time and review time so that we can prepare our students adequately for local, state, and national testing. And we did get positive feedback when we talked to our parents and to our staff about moving spring break to the week prior than what is currently on the calendar. It is up for discussion tonight, and so now I'll take any questions.
All right, members of the board, and we wanted to be deliberate in this manner, and at the work session, we will bring this back for action. Questions tonight? Ms. Morrison.
I think this move absolutely makes sense for our students to have the additional instructional time before they start the test. And I also have heard from our staff that many of them have students in other school divisions and their break is different, and that's a hardship. And I think if we can work to make this align, it would be a good move for LCS.
Thank you. I also want to bring to your attention that the BAS calendar has an intersession the week of April the 11th through the 15th, and then spring break would be the 18th. But I did talk with the principal, Monica Hendricks, today, and she said that it would not affect them at all to swap those weeks, so that they would be able to have spring break the 11th through the 15th, and then their intersession would be the week following.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Morrison, for your question. Any further questions pertaining to this matter? All right, and you'll have opportunity to continue to ponder this, and it'll come back before us at our May 18th work session. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent Pugh and board.
Is there a reason we're waiting to the 18th?
We have tried to be clear on discussion and then action, and also we didn't want to rush and make the decision tonight in case board members felt they needed more time or the community needed more time. But this chair is willing to entertain any consideration that this board may have tonight. Doesn't seem to be anyone making any statement to the contrary. Dr. Brenner?
Just say, I'm in favor of this move. I think it's a good idea. I do think it's a good idea to postpone it so that the community can have some input into it, to be aware of it. I looked at some old schedules, and it looks like in 2018, 2019, we did the same thing, because about every 3 or 4 years, it looks like the holiday gets shifted. So I think since we're talking about the spring of 22, to wait for one more meeting, I'm pretty comfortable with that, if that's okay with the board.
All right. Ms. Morrison, we hear your point, and so I tend to, we'd like to move this to the consent agenda for the May 18th work session.
Yes, it's a good idea.
All right. Thank you all very much. The board clerk, please so note. At this time, we will now go to J2, which is a resolution regarding the discretionary stipend. And I am going to give way to our vice chair and our very capable school board attorney, who really is the mastermind of making sure that we had our things in order for any further information to inform the board of what's happening with this matter. Dr. Brennan and Attorney Towns.
So I will start off and then ask Attorney Towns to back me up. But as we all are aware, that as part of our budget discussion, we requested as part of the budget that there be a stipend for school board members, which can be done by the school board itself, by Virginia state law. But in order to get a stipend for the chairperson, we have to have approval of city council. So Attorney Towns has looked into this process of how we should do this and has made the recommendation and has drafted a resolution for us to vote on. And then once we vote on this, we would then take this to city council at their meeting next week for them to approve. So Attorney Towns, can you fill in anything that I missed or any other comments you might have?
I don't have any other comments. Just here if anyone has any additional questions.
And for the board's review, as Dr. Brennan just stated, council will be meeting next Tuesday, and there is a request to be on the May 11th agenda with the resolution that you should have on board docs in your packet. And Attorney Towns is willing to entertain any questions that board members may have. All right, since there is none, do we need to go through the formality of everyone, or can we see this? Go right ahead, Dr. Brennan.
I'd like to make a motion, if that's okay with the board, so we can take that to city council.
All right.
A quick question. So this is not where you're talking about every person getting a stipend. That is additional to that.
By code, we can do, the school board can do that themselves as far as stipend for board members, and that was proposed to city council as part of our budget. And if they approve the budget, then that's all taken care of. But for reasons that are unique to the state code, the chairman's stipend has to be approved by city council, even though it's still coming from our budget. So we need city council's approval just of the chairperson's stipend. And Attorney Towns, help me with that.
Yes, it's just that the stipend is discretionary. And so what the resolution, it's required by the state code, every school board has to do it. And it's $2,000 that it just would have to be established that the school board in its discretion may have a stipend of an additional $2,000 for its school board chairperson. So this is all just what's in the statute. There's nothing in particular that's special to Lynchburg or our school board or city council, but it must be done by a resolution of the local governing body, and in this case, that would be Lynchburg City Council.
Ms. Evans, any further? So that means that this is for the chair, not for the individual stipends for each school board member. That has already been taken care of, at least for now, relative to our budget. But this is something that had to be addressed. Dr. Gupta.
So the chair can opt out from not taking this?
Absolutely.
Yes. It's discretionary that the school board offered, and it's also discretionary that the chairperson, if it is offered, that they may take advantage of that stipend.
There's, Dr. Brennan has wanted to put a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Dr. Carter, that the resolution as it is worded would be forwarded to council for their consideration. Any further questions or discussion? Mr. Harvey.
My understanding is that I guess you as a school board member would already receive the stipend that's been budgeted. So this would be in addition to that if city council were to approve that resolution. I'm fine with that. I would go so far as to say I would actually prefer that the resolution state that it's, that for city council to actually vote on school board stipends personally. I know we've already addressed that, but I'm just sharing my opinion on that.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Any further, Dr. Carter?
Just clarification, this has already been addressed in our budget.
Correct.
That is correct.
Right, we just need the
Right.
new state code.
So
Okay.
just to clarify,
It's nothing new that we're
yeah.
adding to the budget.
It's an item of our budget, and it comes from our budget, but city council has to approve that we use it. Correct.
So we already had
Dr.
that.
Nellis?
Yeah, I didn't support the original stipend proposal. I didn't support the health insurance proposal. I'm not going to support this.
Thank you, Dr. Nellis. Any further, Ms. Evans?
So this was also included in our budget already?
Yes.
Extra?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And rather than me saying yes, let me guess, Mr. Carnage, is that correct?
That is accurate.
Thank you.
And,
Mr. Harvey?
and just for clarification, our support of this is to send this resolution to council.
That is correct.
We are not necessarily approving or disapproving the stipend as of now, the additional stipend for the chair. We're approving sending a resolution for council to consider this.
That's correct, because this matter would rest with council.
Yeah, and so therefore, I will be supporting this motion because I feel like this is where this resolve should reside, is in the discretion of council.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Any further questions or discussion? Dr. Gupta?
If anybody deserves or should have stipend, is the chair. It's 24/7, 365 job. If you divide $2,000 by 40 hours a week, and then divide another 52 weeks on top of that, that's less than $1 a day. So.
All right, Dr. Gupta, thank you. Hearing no further questions or discussion, I'm going to ask our clerk to call the roll on this matter, please. If you say yea, you are in favor of sending this on to council. If you say nay, you would be not in support of such.
School Board Member Evans?
Yes.
School Board Member Morrison?
Yes.
School Board Member Carter?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Brennan?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Coleman?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Nellis?
No.
School Board Member Dr. Sinha?
Yes.
School Board Member Dr. Gupta?
Yes.
School Board Member Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
It's 8-1, yes.
Motion carries 8-1. Thank
Can I
you
say
all.
one last thing?
Please, Ms. Evans.
I just want to say one last thing, because when Dr. Nellis said that, because I also voted against the stipend and insurance,
Yes, ma'am.
that I agree with Mr. Harvey. I'm happy to send this to council to vote, but it again is not something that I supported us doing the first, just in general. So I just want to.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. All right, and so that will happen next week, and typically the chair, I want to make sure that you're clear that the chair will go before, not representing anything other than the board, and that is a position that the board will determine, the pleasure of the board and reorg in July, but that's how we will proceed. Thank you all very much, and we will now go to J3, and that will take us to instruction and program policy updates. Dr. Edwards?
Yep, we have a couple policies that are new, first read, that we're going to go through with the assistance of the directors. First is IMP, and Ms. Brown, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so can you quickly take us through the IMP programs, and also taking in consideration Dr. Nillis's question about what has changed. Is it VSBA or is it us? Is it an old policy? Would be helpful where you can.
Yes, ma'am. The Instruction and Program Policy Committee met on April the 2nd to review updated policies from the Virginia School Board Association. The VSB updated language in these policies, such as will to is or will be to are, will annually provide to annually provide in these policies. Specifically, policy JGD/JGERZ. The student suspension and expulsion was a local policy that we added specific language to that addressed implementation. We no longer need that specific language in terms of implementation. We no longer use that within our policies. Therefore, the policy JGD/JGE says the same thing. And so we're going to stick with the VSB direct language in that language and not add on our additional language. And so we will be deleting policy JGD/JGE-RZ. That's our recommendation. Policy JHH, suicide prevention. Edit language that outlines that the superintendent is responsible for developing procedures for contact in regards to suicide. These protocols are documented in the self-harm manual that are housed with the school counselors and other mental health professionals within our school division. In regards to the other policies, Ms. Evans had already shared those in our specific language. And if it's the will of the board, I can go through every single one and update the specific language and guide you through that, if that's the will of the board.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms.
Well, she can't see people shaking heads, so I was just letting Director Brown know that some people were shaking their heads.
Right.
Would you like for her to go through each policy?
All right, thank you. Ms. Evans?
And if she wants us to go through each policy, I sent each policy with the update on it to every board member already. So I hate to ask her to go through and do that when we've already done that. I sent it in a format, I'm not sure if you remember, but it had the list and it had beside it what we did to that policy. So if there was a question, we could ask Ms. Brown, but I don't feel like she should have to go through each policy when we've already all had that information.
So noted, Ms. Evans. And so, Director Brown, thank you. Dr. Brennan?
I would just like to ask one clarification, which I did ask Ms. Evans about, and maybe if it's okay for Director Brown to address that. So policy JGD, JGE-RZ, that was entirely deleted. And then we do have a policy JGD, JGE, which is also student suspension expulsions, which has been approved in the past. I'm just trying to figure out, is the first policy, I'm still learning this process, but is the one we deleted, is that just the regulations for that other policy, or how do those two relate?
Yes, anytime you see a Z on it, that means that we took that VSBA policy and added additional local language specific to Lynchburg in it. And at that time when we wrote that policy, we listed almost a step-by-step implementation action that we as a division would implement in regards to that policy. Now we separate implementation of a policy and regulation. Those two things have been separated out within the last 2 years of policy. So we deleted this one, staying in accordance of what we've started to do as a division.
Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Director Brown, any further questions from the board? Apparently, this is before us tonight for discussion.
Yeah, I'm not quite catching the deletion of the -RZ. Is it just there's another policy already in place that captures everything already, and that's JGD,
Yes.
JGE?
Yes.
So, okay. I just
Yes.
was having a little trouble with the audio. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Further questions tonight? So this will come back to the board for action. All right, thank you all very much. We're moving right along to J4, Human Resources Policy Updates. Dr. Edwards.
Absolutely, and I will invite Attorney Towns and Ms. Cartwell to the mic to kind of assist with any questions that come up with this. But the Human Resources Policy Work Group met on April 21st, and this was to review the forms that we had in place and recommended form to combine. So I'll let them talk a little bit about that process.
Okay. What we did was review the two forms, the report for discrimination and harassment, and Attorney Towns and I looked at it, the need to combine the student, the employee, and the application and create one form, because they were all saying the exact same thing, and this form is GBF. So that was basically the changes that we made. We do also just change some of the basic language and combine the harassment and discrimination behaviors so that the individual will be able to check off one or the other. We included the names of the persons who have been discriminated, who believe they've been discriminated against. We added in where and when the incident occurred, named the witnesses, and pretty much we used a lot of the verbiage that was in the previous form, but we just kind of moved things around. You want to add anything?
I think you covered it. We just hope to truncate the forms, because to have two forms when you're dealing with harassment and discrimination, usually those issues go together. So it just made sense to make one form and have a form that was friendly for student use and staff use, because the more forms you have, it's always harder to make sure people have the correct form. So we thought that would be the best way to handle these forms, and to delete the two original reports for harassment and discrimination.
All right, board, and go right ahead, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest in reviewing this form, I appreciate the fact that we're combining this. I think it simplifies everything. The only suggestion that I had was we struck attach additional pages if necessary. I know a lot of times someone might type up their notes ahead of time and have them as an attachment. So I was just wondering, in lieu of striking the attach additional pages if necessary, leave that in place so that they could attach additional pages to the document. That was the only comment I had regarding the form.
Okay.
So noted, Mr. Harvey. Any other questions or discussion? All right. So, board, this will come back before us. And what's neat about this, as we all know, that we look back to these policies, and sometimes it's 1970, sometimes it's 1980, 2000, or whatever. And you're weighing in on making this better, and we appreciate everyone looking at this stuff. Anybody else on this matter? Thank you, Director Cardwell and Attorney Towns. All right, we'll now move to J5, which has to do with operations policy updates, Dr. Edwards.
Absolutely, and the operations group met on April 16th to review some policies which were VSBA updates, and I also had with me, and neglected to put her on the agenda with me, Director Ethel Reeves, and I don't know if she's on, who can jump in and tag team with me. Ms. Reeves, are you on?
I'm here.
Okay, all right. So we did meet to go over some of these are VSBA updates. So I will kind of go through those to point out the simple ones in KBC, which is media relations. One of the recommendations from VSBA is to delete the word shall. We also added superintendent's designee because of the way our media relations program is operated, and the response team is usually out of Director Reeves's office. You will also see a KBR news media, which is a regulation that talks about our procedures and protocols for how news stories are communicated, the who, and we had to make some distinctions between regular news stories and public releases and athletics, because as you know, athletics happens on the spot, and often coaches and athletic directors are interviewed there. And Director Reeves, jump in at any point if I'm missing any parts of that. KGB and KKA, so public conduct on school property, and service animals, particularly service animals is one that we had seen before, but again, there is a focus from VSBA to remove the language shall and make those not as direct as they have been in the past. K in the sex offender registry, there have been some changes in this. And actually, we had Attorney Towns look into that policy KN, and just wanted to make sure that we also combine that with a look at KK, which is our visitors policy, which also references KN. So there was a deletion of the sex offender registry information section, although the code and information is still listed there in terms of that one. And then you'll see KNA has been deleted, the violent sex offenders on school property, and that's due to the rewrite of KN. So we just wanted to cross-reference that there is a recommendation from VSBA that we delete that policy in lieu of updating the code and making sure that we have the rewrite in KN. And then there are two new policies that LCS has not had in the past that are VSBA recommended, and they are KB, which talks about parental rights and responsibilities, particularly when you're talking the custodial and non-custodial parents, since we do have those incidents where we're trying to do due diligence in making sure that both parents' custodial rights are met. And then the community involvement in decision-making is another policy that gives the board the right to establish a committee as needed if there's something that we want to involve the community in that goes outside of our advisory groups or our ad hoc groups. It may be a particular item of interest for a particular short period of time with that. So that's my quick summary. Director Reeves, is there anything that you want to add to that?
No, you covered everything.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Thank you, Dr. Reeves. We discussing this tonight, and there are two new policies, and so I know you'll need some further time on these, but anything that anyone would like to bring up tonight relative to this matter as we ponder over it for the next time. Dr. Brennan.
Dr. Sinya and I were on the work group that looked at these policies. I think Dr. Edwards and Director Reeves has covered them well. We just wanted to make the point that sex offender registry notification is the one that has the most changes, and to review that closely would be very helpful. And then the new one from VSBA, which is KC, community involvement and decision making, I think is important just to make note of. So we have the ability, as everyone knows, as a board to make ad hoc committees if we would like to on a topic under our board policies. But this is actually saying that you can make a committee of community members related to a specific school, which I think is a great idea. The more involvement we have of the communities into the schools would be better. So I think we felt that was a very positive move by VSBA and for Lynchburg City Schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan, and of course, maybe some examples of what that will look like can be pondered over as well. All right, thank everybody for looking at those items, and no further questions. We'll move on. We're down to the last 3 items. Now, each of these will require some brain power to discuss, and this will move us to J6 with the governance policy update. And let me just say this as Dr. Edwards brings this before us. I believe in our last work session that Director Jordan shared with us the possibilities of creating some type of committee around student achievement. And I also know that board members have articulated their concerns about additional committees and or making it most useful for us in terms of observations. And so I think that we've come up with something that is at least worthy of your consideration tonight. Dr. Edwards put this together after hearing our discussion in this work group.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Coleman and Ms. Pugh and Dr. Jordan, who also assisted. We did meet on April 27th. We took this school board committee policy as our guide, and we looked at adding another standing committee, Student Achievement Committee. The one thing that we did discuss was that there's probably a lot of interest on this board by everybody to participate on that committee and have some conversation. So we modeled it after the behavioral discipline committees, which rotate and allow multiple board members to have that experience on a rotating basis, rather than just letting 2 board members or 3 board members have that experience. The other thing that we added was some definition about what we're looking at for student achievement, and really looking at some cohort data that's longitudinal, that's disaggregated by race, gender, and SES at a bare minimum. There may be other areas that we want to look at data. The third thing that we talked about is the need to really see how decisions were made. So we did, once we get a little bit more into putting COVID behind us, look at this one as maybe a traveling committee that might meet at a school where we're actually doing a data meeting, and the board members would get to sort of fishbowl and see some of the decisions. And we need to talk about the confidentiality and all of that that has to do with student data. But I think it's helpful for boards to see how decisions are made, to see some of these data rooms and what the questions are, and it would help you all be a better informed about the process, and also help us get better data. So we tried to craft all of that in that little statement that you see in the agenda that talks about this committee reviews current practices and needs in the area of student achievement data analysis. Committee members will observe and participate, and by participate meaning we would have discussions at the board meeting about longitudinal cohort data, and discussions for the division and or school response to intervention. Student achievement data for each cohort will be disaggregated, because that's something else that we heard, by race, gender, SES, and any other categories that we might determine, other identifiers. And we will present quarterly to the full school board. So you might have participated in something where you were looking at elementary scores and have been following elementary scores, whereas another board member may have been on the middle school, but we want to make sure that all board members have the big picture. So we wrote some language for the policy for consideration, but I also, and I believe Barbara also put it in the policy, but I did a snapshot of what the months would look like, so that we have an idea of what a rotation might look like, and then what would a quarterly board meeting look like, and whether or not we decided to do that as part of a regular board meeting, or maybe that's the work session agenda, just to give you a sample. It's not for absolute. Okay.
All right, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you for putting it together. My concern is your common denominator among all your presentations, identifying data focus, longitudinal data 1, longitudinal data 2 is chair and vice chair. But then you look at these subgroups, 2 board members are always left out. So if I start, I'm part of the identifying focus group, I may not be part of the longitudinal data 1. And if, and there's a probability I'm part of data 1, I may not be part of data 2.
I didn't mean data 1 and data 2 to be different data. I just meant data presentation 1, presentation 2. I think we need to be looking at common data throughout the year, which is why I'm like, this might be a work session, so that in October, where are we across the board? You might have seen a small piece, Dr. Coleman might have seen a small piece, but here's the big picture of all of our data. And then what does that same data look like from October to February is what I meant. So.
But then there's overlap because board member number 2 will attend longitudinal presentation 2 once, and then again longitudinal presentation 2 with vice chair. So is it different?
Yeah, they're different meetings. I'm sorry. This is just it made sense to me when I drew it, but now that you're talking to me, I can see how I might have confused you. That second column, which says quarterly meetings, is just full board meetings with everybody here. We decide in July, our focus for next year is this, and we want to look at longitudinal data. We might say we want to just look at reading data across race, gender, ethnicity, or we might just say we want to just look at achievement gap data across math, science, whatever. That would be a discussion that we have with the board, and that will be what we would be reporting out on at those quarterly board meetings. The smaller student achievement committee meetings are different. So they're two separate meetings. So that first one that might occur in August, where it's the chair and whoever decided they wanted to be number 1 and number 2, I just put numbers, that might be if, let's just say we did identify writing data as something we wanted to look at. Well, that might be, we're going to look at writing data, we're going to be at Heritage Elementary, and we're going to talk with the staff there about it's August, so maybe they have some baseline data that we're looking at, that we're tracking over time, that will be part of this longitudinal data. But the purpose of the small student achievement meetings is for each board member to get a deeper experience about how we're looking at data and making those decisions.
And what made you decide to have chair and vice chair preside? The normal routine is that 3 committee members elect within the committee chair and vice chair, because there looks like a special people who have a complete, I mean, it'll involve a lot of time, but what I'm saying is they got a better view than 7 other members in this board.
We can do whatever we want. I started by saying what I heard was we wanted multiple people, multiple board members seem to have an interest. So if you look at how the discipline committee is already set up, if I'm not mistaken, the discipline committee is chair, vice chair, and 2 board members. So I just stole that model as a starting part. Start here. We can certainly do board member 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and rotate it. It's really whatever you all want. But I always find it helpful to give people something to look at and think about and chew on, and then we can rip it apart and rebuild it from there.
Dr. Brennan.
I would just add briefly to that, as being part of this conversation, that it was designed in a discipline committee, but I, for one, I'm very happy with it being 1, 2, 3, as far as not having additional meetings to go to. So this was just designed based on discipline meeting that was scheduled, but I think however the board would like to do it, I don't think the chair or vice chair would argue with that. Thank you.
Further discussion, Mr. Harvey.
I want to applaud you for this because I think this is awesome to have this committee, and I appreciate the information that's going to be distributed. My only concern, I think I'm sharing a similar concern that Dr. Gupta is saying. For me, it might be just more of just consistency. It looks to me as if you're going to share a group of data with all the members of the board, but you're going to do it 2 at a time over several month period. And so what I wonder is, if we had it as a typical committee with 3 members that they then vote their chair of that committee, have those meetings and then distribute the information to the rest of the board members. And then those board members could ask questions. Here's my biggest concern with this is, and I believe this is what Dr. Gupta might have been kind of touching on, is this the consistency of following the trends, what the data is ultimately reporting, because I could show up at one meeting and get this certain amount of data. And then the second half of that data happens at a meeting that he's at and I'm not at. So just the consistency of being able to track the data. An option I would offer you is maybe there's an interest with certain board members that they follow the writing data and other board members follow the mathematics data. Just so some type of creation that creates a consistency to be able to follow the results, track the results, see any warning signs, and then try to right the ship as we move forward.
So, and I appreciate you're sharing that, and I started thinking about how we look at data in a practical sense. So the first thing, if you just go to the quarterly meetings and you see those 4 reports that involve every board member. So imagine we have 4 work sessions where it's just about data, and you see it at the start in July before we outline what we look at. You get the October more looks like here's what the fall baseline data is, you know, when we gave our, let's just say PALS test or whatever. February identifies mid-year testing and data, and then by June, we have all of the end of the year data. So for the full entire board, you are all looking at the exact same data all year long. What is a little harder to do is to say on a monthly basis, each board member will be tracking the same specific school. So I heard 2 things. One, I heard we want the data, we want the presentation, and you want to look at it a little more frequently. But I also heard a lot of questions about what do you do with that? How do you make decisions about that? So when you're looking at a wall and you see, you know, so many red, so many yellow, so many blue, how do you determine what are the strategies? And those vary from school to school and from program to program and what it is. So what we were trying to do was accomplish 2 things. One, have everybody gets this presentation 4 times a year so that everybody has the same information. We established that baseline in the beginning and we're constantly reporting out. But we also wanted to bring you in behind the scenes and say, this is what it looks like when we're collecting the data, making decisions about the data, and you might have a window in time in a school in time where you're seeing like, oh, that's how they do. Oh, that's what when we talk about the war room and looking at, and if you remember it, even in some of my evaluation data, it's different on different schools. So it was more just to give the board's experience.
Dr. Gupta?
I think she had raised before me.
Thank you. So who was that? Go ahead, Dr. Carter.
My question is, can we add this to the work session? A work session?
Oh, absolutely. This is for discussion tonight.
Is it consistent to cover all of these and then maybe have 1 or 2 where we actually see it in progress at a school? Be open. If you want to come, you can. If you don't, then you don't have to.
And the challenge that I have with seeing it at a school and having it be everybody is if I want you to imagine a wall with every child's name and their grades and so on and so forth, and all of you there. It's now a public board meeting, right? So now you really can't. So that's why we're trying to limit it to how can we get a small group in there to see those kinds of things so that when we come to you and we start saying, we looked at these scores, and for the kids who were in this range, you might say, oh yeah, that was one of the, I got that. I understand where they made that connection.
Dr. Gupta, and then Dr. Miller.
Add Mr. Harvey's word consistency to efficiency, because the objective is, I'm understanding your objective is to take a deeper dive into the data. But once you take a deeper dive, then you got to be able to close the loop. Means if I'm looking at the achievement data, what action plan do we have going forward, or we have going forward, to make sure that the achievement gap is on the reduction path? So right now what I see is I get a surface view of everything, but then depend on somebody to close the loop, and hopefully they'll close the loop. So if somehow it's restructured, so whosoever is involved, whether it's 1 board member, 2, 3, 4, you see the process completion from beginning till end. You own that thing from beginning till end. And they can come and report in a work session to the rest of the board.
And I appreciate the process from beginning to end to close the achievement gap. But again, 20 schools, 20 different things going on possibly in 20 schools. So what Monica is doing at Bass to address whatever concerns that she might have. It may be different from what needs to happen at Perrymont. And some schools, they don't need to put a lot of time and energy into, let's just say, literacy, it's math. In other schools, it's the other way around. So even in trying to give you all of that and show you, well, this is the action plan for math, but it's not the action plan for math for the entire division. It's very school-based. So we're trying to put together a big longitudinal package that shows everything, but also trying to be mindful to what we hear you say when you're like, well, what are you doing? And when we say, what are we doing, the achievement gap is not closed after we watched it all year long and we wait till the June and say, okay, let's get an action plan. If I'm an excellent teacher, which by the way, it's Teacher Appreciation Week, so I do have wonderful teachers, they're closing that achievement gap readily. They're going through their monthly school improvement team meetings, if you've ever sat in one, and saying, here's where we are right now. In order for this subgroup of children to move up, this is what we need to do right now. So we're trying to give you that experience of what does that decision right now look like, so that when we get to the end of the year, you have a complete package of, here are the little formative things that they did along the way, and this is the final thing that they're doing towards the end.
My last word will be if I change the action plan to best practices.
Say that one more time.
Changing the word action plan and using the word best practices. So that will look at all your 20 schools and say what Bass is doing, what's working. Maybe TC Miller can use it.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Now we'll go to Dr. Nellis.
Yeah, I have a number of comments. First off, I don't like this being student achievement, this committee just being set up and we have no experience with it at all. I mean, I'm in favor of something along this line. I think we can do it on an ad hoc basis. If it works out, then we can formalize it, I suppose. I like the idea of the longitudinal data presented regularly. Quarterly is probably about right. Maybe every, anyway. And the whole board sees that, so that's great. My vision when we first talked about this was, let's go in, at some point, let's go into a school, 2 by 2 or whatever, just to, like Dr. Edwards said, to get a flavor for how the decisions are made, what's going on, and how they're reacting to the data. That's what I want to see. I don't have to go into this is me personal, I don't need to go into every school. I don't need to monitor a particular school monthly, but I would like to see what's going on once a semester or something. And we can do it on, again, ad hoc with, 1 or 2 people, or 2 people would be ideal, better, I think. In terms of the board chair, vice chair, there's a lot of history there for the discipline committee. That was put in place because at that time, the chair and vice chair had experience running meetings. That was the only reason, with other board members having experience with discipline committee, we don't necessarily need to continue that. If we want to, that's great, but that's where that came from. The other thing is there's been a lot of comments about closing the achievement gap. We're not going to close the achievement gap by groups. It's going to be one student at a time, and that's where I'm interested in getting into the school and seeing what the decisions are being made, because the students are individuals. They're all different. They all have different needs. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nellis. Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, and as this dialogue continues, I find it very fascinating because, and again, Dr. Edwards, I really appreciate you putting this together because I think this whole concept is awesome. What I would like to maybe even offer is, in lieu of, and again, because I'm looking at that consistency, since all of the board members, we are liaisons for particular schools, and you're kind of setting this up based on school achievement. What if, instead of this rotating committee, this particular committee meets this month at these 2 schools, covers these 2 schools, and that's the same committee that will do those 2 schools every however many times that you've slotted us to meet. And then you still have that overall report to the board. So say, for instance, myself, I might be with TC Miller, Bass, and EC Glass. And so I would just sort of follow those schools, the data for those schools. And Dr. Gupta would be Heritage and whichever other schools that he's the liaison for. But that might be a way we could keep that consistency and just following the data. And as Dr. Nilla says, get in the schools. We can continue to develop that rapport with the schools and that familiarity with the schools.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Ms. Morrison.
I think we need to be very careful about not adding more work to our principals and staff. I think if we're asking for in-depth data that is not going to help us make decisions, it's not a good use of their time. And I think getting it an overview every 6 weeks with in-depth instead of going into each school. I am just, having been there, you've got a lot of things on your plate that you're trying to handle. And I don't want to add one more thing to their plate.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Certainly, there have been board members that have spoken on this issue tonight, which was our intent. This has come before you for discussion, and we're very good listeners, and so we'll ponder over what has been stated, and this will come back to us. Ultimately, the board will have to vote up or down this Student Achievement Committee, which would then take us to our fourth committee, I believe, where we have Finance Committee, we have our Discipline Committee, and we have our Legislative Advocacy and Community Relations Committee, and this would be the fourth committee on student achievement. And so we tried to incorporate some of everything that each person said, Dr. Nillis included, and so we'll consider this and bring it back next time and consider what you stated, and ultimately the board will need to make a decision on it one way or the other. All right, any further discussion? Thank you, everybody, for your comments, and thank you, Dr. Edwards, for masterfully putting that together for us to look at. All right, we'll now move to item 7, and so that we can just get right to the point, I want to turn this over to Dr. Edwards and Deputy Superintendent Pugh so that we can make a decision on venue for our school board meetings.
Yes, so we have been very appreciative to being here in Dunbar during these last couple weeks, months, while we are still working through the admin building concerns. But we're about to come up to summer, and you know Dunbar Theater does a lot of summer programs, summer work. And they are excited, children are excited to take our spots on the stage. So that being said, we are looking for another location, have been looking for another location to have board meetings while we still mitigate both the COVID, the size of our room at the board meeting, and other concerns at the board room. And I will turn it over to Ms. Pugh to talk about some of the things we did and then what our options are.
Thank you. Early on, when we were looking for a venue, we needed to consider size and space so that you all can be spread out 6 feet apart. And again, as Dr. Edwards said, we thank Dunbar Middle School for being very hospitable. And we, in looking, the space that's the largest that's available to us would be the auditorium at EC Glass. It is available for June and July. And it is available for us to be able to leave the tables set up, the audio visual equipment set up. I just want to comment that there is a lot in the past couple of weeks. We have to take the tables down at Dunbar. We have to take all of the equipment down, and that usually takes a day and a half, a day to take down and a day and a half or more to set up. And it's not just Austin Journey, but it's Austin Journey and a team of some IT technicians, some maintenance people. So we're looking for a space where we can leave things set up as much as possible. I did check with the principal at EC Glass as well as Steve Gatsky, and the auditorium is available for us to use in the months of June and July. And then hopefully we will have things situated, resituated, and be able to move back into your normal board space as we work things out at the administration building. So we're bringing it up for discussion today so that we can get this done. Mr. Journey would like a decision so that he knows where the next meeting will be, or the first meeting in June will be, and he can make the necessary arrangements to move the equipment over.
All right, thank you. And personally speaking, I'm hoping that we can resolve this matter tonight. And so it is coming before us that EC Glass would be our home, and hopefully with our 5-day return to in-person instruction, we can get back to our home as well by that time. But the floor is open now for discussion on this matter, and hopefully that we can make a decision. Start with Ms. Evans.
I think that sounds great. Thank you.
Further, who's next? Dr. Gupta.
You know, I have nothing against EC Glass, but we spent $62 million building Heritage High School. And I think every time there's an event, we'll leave Heritage behind. So the infrastructure is not up to the mark because it's the latest building we have in our portfolio. So I'm assuming it has everything and anything we need to do what we need to do anywhere. So what's keeping us even considering? Every time I talk about Heritage is security issues, you know, some issue or the other issue pops up. And that's the brand new buildings we have in our portfolio.
It is the newest building, and it is state-of-the-art, and it has the technology, and the space would accommodate for public to attend. The concern is the size of the stage, and the EC Glass stage is much larger than the square footage or the stage size at Heritage High School. So when we look at setting up your tables, giving you space to be socially distanced, having room for the display that's behind some board members, as well as all of the audio equipment, we need to look at the largest space that's available to us.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for bringing that up, and I think that was an adequate response, Deputy Superintendent Pugh. Further questions and discussions? All right, Mr. Harvey?
I think we have incredible schools across our whole city, so I'm happy to go to whichever school that would be nice enough to facilitate us and have us be present.
All right. I personally would like to say I want us to get back to our school board chambers as quickly as possible, and I hope that our city and our staff are working hard, that we'll be able to do that. For the record tonight, and I'm interested, Dr. Nillis, anyone else have anything to say, that if we could go on record tonight of approving the venue for our board meetings going forward will be EC Glass High School Auditorium. Is there someone who would be prepared to make that motion tonight?
I just want to be clear, that's really the only option at this point that's being presented is EC Glass.
Someone please respond to that. That's the, yeah.
Yes, it is.
But we're open, Dr. Nillis. Again, as chair, I'm making it clear. We didn't come here tonight to dictate to the board on where we would go, but there has been a lot of thought put into it, as Deputy Superintendent Pugh has indicated. And Mr. Harvey, I think you're correct. We've got incredible facilities across the school division, but for the reasons stated, it appears that EC Glass may be our best option at this time. The motion?
I move that we change our venue to EC Glass for the school
Dr. Carter
sessions.
has made the motion for our venue to be EC, is seconded by Ms. Morrison. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
All right, let the record state one no that I can clarify. All right.
I will join the no.
All right, two, Drs. Nillis and Gupta. Yes, Mr. Harvey.
Would it be appropriate for me to ask my fellow board members the opposition, if you have another idea or suggestion, or, I mean, I just.
If I wanted to make a comment, I would.
Pardon?
Yes. So noted. The chair will move us right along. Each board member has the right to vote as they so choose. All right, so that makes it 7-2.
Hold on, Jay.
Oh, go.
I can't understand people. I heard what you said. I didn't hear your answer.
Dr. Nillis, please.
I said if I wanted to make a comment, I would have regarding my vote.
Thank you, Dr. Nillis. All right, so the vote is 7-2 that we would move to EC Glass. Thank each board member for your comments, and we'll continue to move forward. All right, now this moves us to the last item, which will need some discussion as well. And Dr. Edwards, could you get us some level of clarity over the governor's school slots and what we need to do?
Absolutely. So in January, when we first started sharing the proposed budget worksheet, that Excel spreadsheet that listed all of the things that we were considering, one of the first things that we talked about were the purchase of additional GovSchool slots. And those, I did not photocopy that today, but those spreadsheets are still available in board docs if you go back to a previous meeting. And there were several options for the GovSchool. Number 13, row number 13 said, add two student seats, standard entry. There was a cost for that. Row 14 was add 2 student seats, and they would be a pedal program equity initiative, which at the time was the best name that we had to describe a diversity initiative. So those 2 seats would fall under some diversity, intentional diversity initiative. Number 15 was add 4 seats, which would have been a 2 and 2. 16 was 6 seats, which was a 2 and 4. On January 26th, the board supported adding 6 additional seats at the GovSchool. 2 would be a standard entry, and 4 would be under what is listed as a pedal program equity initiative. And at that time, we had conversations to address the diversity in the GovSchool. I do want to note Dr. Carter's comments about not calling children through the pedal. We didn't want them to be called the pedal kids or anything like that. And at that time, we did respond that that was not our intention, that we were just simply pointing out the purposeful and intentional nature of saying this is what we want to explore to increase the diversity of the Lynchburg City School students at the GovSchool. So the board did elect or support number 16 on January 26, which eventually, when you voted in the end of March, was also included. Since then, there has been a lot of work and energy in terms of recruitment and evaluation of GovSchool slots over those months that we were debating our budget. And timelines don't always line up as perfectly as they can in terms of the decision-making. We had this last year when we had 2 GovSchool slots slated in our budget last year, and I think we came back multiple times and ended up changing our budget multiple times and actually took everything, almost everything, out of our budget. So it was very difficult to promise anything until we've had a fruitful conversation with City Council and also the board. And let me do state that our budget is not finally approved yet either, although we do have what seems some support from City Council. They still have to approve their budget, then it comes back to us to approve our budget, although these slots are in here. So what is the question at hand is, we have 6 slots, which we put 2 to be standard entry and 4 to be some sort of diversity initiative. As of right now, I am told that the recruitment is done. Our numbers for application are down. I think in the past, we've had 60 plus or 50 plus students apply for the GovSchool. This year, we were down in the 30s, and that may be pandemic related, not sure, but we had less. We did select all of the students for the existing program. So the existing GovSchool program is 21 junior slots, 21 senior slots. All of our juniors are going to be seniors. So those 21 senior slots are taken because they're just going to roll over next year when they become seniors, which left us 21 junior slots that were already in the budget, which have been filled. Those 21 junior slots have been filled, and there were 5 people, from my understanding, 5 students that were on the waiting list. And we've had waiting lists in the past, so this is not the first year that we've had a waiting list. 3 of those students are juniors, and 2 of those students are seniors who did not get in last year. There may be some misunderstanding, which is why I'm bringing it to this board for discussion so that we all have the same understanding that there are 6 slots, there are 5 students waiting. So the 5 slots automatically, or the 5 of the 6 slots automatically go to the waiting students. And I wanted to make sure that we brought it back to this board and that we were in full transparency when the board agreed to get 6 Gov School slots, that there were 2 that would be added as a standard entry, and then 4 that would be added under a diversity, purposeful diversity initiative, which has not happened. So the Gov School meets tomorrow, I think you said, Mr. Harvey. I'm sure they're eager to let their board know that we are indeed taking the 6 slots, which is not financially not the issue. What is the issue is they also send out their invitations and they start their program in, I believe, June. And they will be needing to know how the board intends on filling those slots and whether or not the waiting list versus what the board intended with the adoption of the 6 additional slots, if I've kind of captured where we are. So hopefully I've clarified what the concern is, and
Thank you, Dr. Edwardson. So what we're going to do so we can be as succinct as possible is give Mr. Harvey an opportunity, since he sits on that board, to share his reflections, and then I want to open the floor to the board for comments. At the end of the day, I think the last statement of Dr. Edwards is where we need to decide tonight whether or not we want to continue to offer the 6 slots or not, and how that would be broken down. Mr. Harvey.
Thank you for affording me this opportunity. I'm not going to be speaking as a representative of the Gov School Board, but more so as a Lynchburg City School Board member. My understanding is that we provided budget for 6 slots that would be specifically for juniors this year, and then we would add an additional 6 slots next year as those. So ultimately, we're talking about 12 additional slots. I am very much in support of the 4 slots within each grouping to be specifically set for encouraging diversity. So I think students, there are students who should be first and foremost afforded those slots. If those students if we do not have applications for those slots, I would still like to see us as LCS to take advantage of those slots within the Gov School system and afford any of our students who would like to pursue that. As I've shared with several of you, I think the issue of diversity at the Gov School is not as much of a Gov School issue as much as it's going to be an LCS issue. We have to tell young people that they can do this. They have the ability. They have the opportunity, and we're going to support them. And we need to be doing that at a much younger age so that they are driven to apply to the Gov School, to set themselves up for success at the Gov School. So I would advocate for us, since we have 5 LCS students who are on the waiting list, we have voted or we have appropriated budgeting for up to 6, we could cover those for this coming year. Those are the students who are on the waiting list. And I think we need to make a huge effort, starting at least in middle school, if not in elementary school, of encouraging students toward this path to take advantage of the opportunities at not only the Gov School, but the STEM Academy, early college, all of those opportunities. But I would hate to see us not provide LCS students an opportunity when we have the ability to provide them an opportunity for next year.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. The floor is open. Now, Dr. Gupta.
So I feel like this proposal is like a bait and switch. When we approved additional positions, the objective was to not encourage, go for diversity. And I think there are structural issues in the governor's school. The structural issues are, what I'm hearing is a push type system, push applications into the system and the students be thrown into Gov School. But do they have a pull system? Do they have an infrastructure in place? Do they have faculty in place? Do they have administration in place, which represents LCS? LCS is an urban school district. It is not a county school district like a rural school district. So does the Gov School infrastructure, whether it's personnel, is able to do that pull system? And in my personal opinion, right now, no. So the second thing is what LCS has done since we approved the budget and now in terms of encouraging students to apply. Third, I see it competes against dual degree programs. So what have we done in Gov School curriculum to bring it out where they compete with other dual degree programs? So students will have a choice between going to associate degree in 2 years off or going to Gov School for 2 years and not being able to get associate degree. If that's the barrier, what are their plans to mitigate that barrier? So, these are the questions, and easy thing is just fill it. So I feel like it's a bait and switch.
Right? Someone would like to respond? We're not trying to put anybody on the spot, but whether it be tonight or in the future, these questions deserve answers. All right, since I will leave it like that. All right. Dr. Carter.
Well, I see that there is an issue. I know there are students there's students of color, black and brown, whatever, that are able to attend the Gov School and do well. And as Dr. Gupta, the illustration of push and pull, I don't know whether there is a pull there to get these students in. And we have one student representative that was in the top 15 of her class at Heritage. She wasn't in the Go Center. And I saw Sunday there were several others that weren't in the Go Center. Now, what the issue is, I don't know. Maybe they're looking at something else, but I don't know. But I think there are students that could have and been able to take those slots. One question is, how many slots available? 6 now?
For this current school year, upcoming school year, we purchased 6 additional slots.
And if they're filled by juniors, if we have 3 juniors and 2 seniors waiting?
What I was told on the waiting list are 3 juniors and 2 seniors, yes.
So if we take the 3 juniors, would that make us have to take 3 extra juniors next year?
We would be taking on 6 new juniors. So we would have 6 juniors this year, and then next year they would become seniors, and we would take 6 new juniors. So as Mr. Harvey said, we would have a total of 12 additional students in the Gov School just by virtue of what you have approved. Now, if you only take 3 spots this year, but you budgeted for 6, so there's room, you don't have to fill them, and you can next year take 6 spots next year if that's the will of the board.
Ms. Evans?
So are you, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what we're being asked. So of the 6 spots, you're saying that we do not have 4 that would fill what our hope was for the governor's school?
Correct.
Okay, so, and then you're saying, do we still fill them with the waiting list people? My answer to that would be yes. you give people the opportunity of what we said. I don't think it's so much a bait and switch. I'm assuming that they tried to find applicants, and that to me is not going to be a one-year fix. As you said, it's going to start in middle school. It's going to start with a change of attitude from teachers too, on that every person deserves to be pushed toward this, and everybody can do it. But I don't think that change is going to happen overnight, and I would hate to see the slots that we budgeted for not be used.
Other thoughts, Dr. Brennan?
So I think, as everybody knows, I've been a big proponent of the extra spots in the Gov School for a long time, and I think it's great that we've budgeted those and we have those now available. And I'm also a big proponent of having diversity in the Governor's School, and I think it is going to be I think a lot of it's going to be Lynchburg City Schools developing that system to have those students be successful there, which I do think is going to take some time. And as Dr. Carter's pointed out, we know from looking at those honor students last Sunday that there is diversity in that group. There are candidates who will fit this. So I think we're all headed in the right direction. I think that we kind of, because of our budget timing, that the cart got in front of the horse a little bit, in that we have approved these spots, but we have not developed a system where we can really work with the students to have a good population of applicants who will fit those 4 spots. And I would hate for us not to use those spots because of that. And I do think it's going to take some time to do it, and I know that the curriculum instruction program will help us to do that. But there are really 2 things on the table, but as Dr. Edwards pointed out tonight, Governor's School Board is going to decide tomorrow they need a request from us to buy those spots. They have not yet heard that, and I hope that we will give that message to them. And the other question is, from Lynchburg City Schools' point of view, how do we fill those spots? And I would say we would try to fill those spots with the most qualified students, hopefully a diverse group. But if we don't have that this year, we need to fill them with students who we have who will be there and be successful. And then we need to work on this, I hope, with a real plan, not just for the Governor's School, but for gifted programs, advanced programs like we've talked about, to make all of them be more equitable and diverse. So I'm in favor of the board letting the Governor's School know that we want to have those 6 spots, and then asking the administration to help find the students who would fill those.
All right. Anyone else want, I see your hand, Mr. Harvey. Anyone else want to speak that has not spoken? All right, Mr. Harvey, and then Dr. Carter.
And I also want to share that, if we're looking at adding from LCS 12 additional slots, that expands the Gov School. And by expanding the Gov School, that expands the staff. When we expand the staff, that brings in additional opportunities for additional diversity within the staff itself, which can help be a draw too. So I think in LCS, we need to take every opportunity that we have to encourage this diversity to happen. But I think it's more of us taking on that role than expecting the Gov School to have to take on that role. I think we provide them with the best of the best of our students. And the best of the best is that diversity that we've wanted to have for such a long time. I think that's our responsibility and our charge to provide that.
If I might, I see you, Dr. Gupta. First of all, Dr. Carter wanted to say.
Well, my question is now, we have 4 slots that we need to fill, but we're talking about 12. I need some clarity as to.
Maybe I can hopefully not confuse it further.
Well, we have 6 altogether, but
Yes,
4
ma'am.
that we now need to fill.
We have 6 slots that a budget process that we started some months ago. And we realized that our budget is semi-approved. That council, as of this date, has articulated a investment in level funding for us. And at the end of the day, whatever that will be, we have to make hard decisions. This is one of them. Do we want those 6 slots? Realizing the waiting list challenge that we've been having over the years, we are clear on that 2 of those positions will withstand an injury. And the other 4, recognizing that our governor was very bold and bodacious to seek to do some revision of how gov schools occur across the Commonwealth. I won't get into the challenges with that, but it did not succeed. This board, with all of its intelligence, recognized that we wanted to allocate 4 slots for individuals that would help us in the area of diversity. I am personally disappointed tonight, and I underline it and put it in bold and an exclamation point at the end of it, because I believe that there are kids out there, and I am not sure on what our effort has been, and quite frankly, going forward, I'm not sure what our effort will be, because systemically across the Commonwealth, not unique to Lynchburg, there is very little effort to push or pull in this regard. I think that School Board Member Gupta has articulated concerns about present composition and how does change occur. And I'm not interested in just kicking a can down the road somewhere for us to come to the same point next year and the year after with the same excuse that we can't find anybody. And so the board's intelligence was 6, 4 of which would be for diversity or equity considerations. And of course, we got to define that because there's so many variables to that, and other board members may want to articulate that. At the end of the day, I want us to go with those 6 slots. That's where I will fall. But I am very disappointed. Underline it, put it in bold and an exclamation point around our effort. And we cannot say that that was a semi-approved budget item, because there are other items of our budget that are semi-approved, and we have been diligently working on those to make sure that they happen appropriately. I said what I mean, and I meant what I said. Any other comments on this, Dr. Gupta?
You know, the other thing is I have requested multiple times. When we met Dr. Smith, he said he'll be happy to come and make a presentation, because I like to see his plan. Means the time has gone by to just keep talking about it. I want to see an action plan. And we are a major contributor to the governor's school. And the number 2 is what I'm hearing is the processes are different. Correct me, Dr. Edwards, if I'm wrong. They say the school district decides which kid will go to governor's school. But at this point, they say, no, we have enough applications, and we cannot entertain any more applications from you because our process is well-defined.
Yeah, I think that was part of the challenge in that, and I'm not sure, and I may have to get either Dr. Jordan or Ms. Pugh to help with the timing of when applications were due and when the vetting process of those applications occurred and when notification to the 21 juniors that we did invite. I mean, we do have 21 slots that were already paid for. That went out, and subsequently that would have triggered a waiting list. And now, as we're here and we are closer to having a fully supported budget, and I understand exactly what I heard you, Dr. Coleman, in saying, you know, we've always had a partially supported budget every single year until it's not. So it's not any different this year. To go back and do some intentional work now, I think is where you, Dr. Gupta, are saying that process is a little different. And I did invite, and I apologize for not getting him, Dr. Smith, here sooner to talk about that plan. He is coming on June 15th to the work session to talk a little bit about what he shared with you earlier and the diversity plan.
So, board, this is our last item before we can move towards closure for tonight's meeting. What is the will of the board? There are several options. I'm not going to go there trying to give options. I guess at the end of the day, are we going to say we're going to go after our 6 slots, give them an opportunity to whomever, an opportunity to find anybody if they can. If they can't, those 6 slots will be made available this year, however they may fall. Mr. Harvey?
Just to provide some information, Central Virginia Governor School selection update from our board packets. Selections were due March 19th. Letters to applicants were sent on March 24th, and student enrollment forms were due on April 5th. Central Virginia Governor School hosted the virtual registration meeting for new students on May 12th. That's upcoming. So those are the dates.
And how did any of that, like we want to make sure that our summer school information gets to parents and so forth, how much of that trickled down into diverse groups and demographics in order to be able to meet that schedule, while we had an expectation that 4 of those seats were going to be? And as if nobody understood that that's what this board said, and now all of a sudden, that should have been understood when we put it out there. Ms. Evans?
Are you saying that should have been understood by the school system? Is that,
Yes,
I'm trying to
ma'am.
make you
Yes, ma'am.
understand.
And I'm not
That
pointing fingers on
information
anybody
didn't come out
individual.
in the
I'm just
public.
saying, when we said that,
Right.
it should have been understood that all of those dates that Mr. Harvey just stated, I'm not arguing with dates.
I don't know if we need to propose what we need to do. I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I think it's going to take a purposeful effort next year to do that, and we need to make sure that that's done. I, for one, don't want to lose the slots that we budgeted for, so I think at this point, we need to, I would support keeping those slots, and I think Dr. Coleman's exactly on point that that was the reason we did them, and it's disappointing that that wasn't done. And we need to make sure for next year that is done and started way ahead of time, but I would not want to lose the slots.
The chair would entertain a motion if you're making it.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to keep the slot, keep as is the 6 slots that we have.
All right. For the purpose of a motion, is there a second for we can go into the further discussions of this? You're seconding the motion?
That's what I was.
Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey. All right, very good. Any further questions or discussion on the motion that the Lynchburg City School Board, 6 Gov school slots, that we will keep them and remove the categorization piece for this particular iteration?
No, I have a question on
Please,
the 6.
please, Dr. Nilles,
Did I understand that there were some seniors that had applied? And that, is it possible to split the 6, 3 junior, 3 senior? That way we have an even, that's an odd number, but the same slots at the junior and the senior level, as opposed to adding 6 junior, and then there's always, next year's budget where we need to. Anyway, so I don't know if that's an option.
Want to respond, Dr. Edwards?
That is an option.
I don't know if your applicants are.
The applicants, the waiting list are 3 juniors and 2 seniors.
Mr. Harvey?
If I could, if next year, if we send 2 seniors and 3 juniors, the following year, those 2 seniors would graduate. Those 3 juniors would move up into those slots. We still have the ability to encourage those other 3 senior slots and still fill 6 junior spots. So even if the 3 that we are the 3 juniors that we're going to open these spots up to this coming year, assuming those 3 also move on to the following year, their senior year, we would still have an additional 3 slots to fill. And then we have the full 6 spots. I think that gives us, as the administration and the school board, the opportunity to encourage those 3 slots for the senior and 4 slots for junior to be filled with students of diversity.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Any further questions or discussion? Now, tonight, for the first time, and Mr. Harvey asked a question earlier, and I think Dr. Nillis was spot on in how he responded to that. But I do want to articulate that I am voting against the motion for principle, even though I support the motion. And I thank you kindly for allowing me to do that. Is there any further questions or discussion tonight? All right, I'm going to ask that the clerk would call the roll on the motion made by by Ms. Evans.
So I guess I'm not sure. What are we doing with the slots?
Okay.
Are we allocating some for seniors and some for juniors? Or is it just wide open?
The motion I put was just to keep 6 slots.
Right.
And say what it had to be.
And it would work itself out, Dr. Nillis.
We're just going to let it work itself out.
Yes, amongst whatever applicants we have.
There are 5 on the waiting list.
But there are only 4 slots left, correct?
There's 6.
There's 6.
Oh, there's 6.
I was not specifying which way they had to go, to juniors or seniors. I was just saying keep the 6 slots that we had put in the budget.
All right, Dr. Nillis, you got clarity on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll. If you vote yes, you're voting in favor of us continuing with our 6 slots and let the process work itself, however it will work itself. If you're voting no, you're against it for whatever your reason may be. Madam Clerk?
Yes?
Yes.
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 No.
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 No. Board Member Mr. Harvey.
Yes.
Motion passed 5-4.
All right.
Can I ask one quick question? And I know you don't have to tell why you voted no, but I'm, as a school board member, I'm struggling to understand people's opposition to things if we're not talking about it. Like, I just don't, I understand, you said why you wanted to vote no. I'm just trying to understand where we are and what, if that's what we put in our budget for this, I'm just trying to understand where we are as a group. So I'd love to just know what the no votes, like what
Dr.
made you say no?
Dr. Cohen.
Just so I can understand.
Dr. Carter, and then I think that's something that we can talk about, master board norms and protocols. Dr. Carter?
And I actually wanted to vote no, but I don't want to stand in the way of the students that worked so hard to get there. But at some point, we've got to make a stand. If these 4 votes are for students to increase diversity, then that's something that we need to do and to stand behind. Yes, intentionally. And there are students, we don't have to make them up. There are students now, African-American students, other students of color that could do this. And what the opposition is, I do not understand, or why. And maybe there isn't an opposition, maybe they have other things that they want to do, or I don't know. But there is a problem, there is an issue for this. And I don't know whether they're not being intentionally sought out. There's some students now that were in the Go Center. They're gifted and they just trickle off, and I don't know what the issue is. I really think we really need to find out for the student. I wanted to reach out to one of the students, some of the students that were in the top 15 to see why weren't they in the Gov school, just to see what they say. I want to hear from them to see what they're saying, why they're not. And now I kind of regret not voting now. But again, for the students, I know there's 5 students out there that are able, and so hopefully they'll go on and do great.
And Dr. Carter, before you share, Dr. Brennan, because we need to hear from you more than me as such, but what I'm saying is I don't think any of our board members are under the impression that any of the persons on the waiting list have any regard for what we're talking about. They just want to be in the Gov school, right. So they're not trying to take away from anybody, but they're just principles that we're lifting, at least I am. Dr. Brennan?
So I totally understand the difficulty with this conversation, but from a practical point of view, I'm not sure what happens to those spots right now. I think what we just decided is that we're not going to use those spots. So we're not going to approve those for the governor's school, for anybody.
Oh, the motion passed.
The motion passed.
School Board Member Evans' motion passed 5-4.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So, and Dr. Nillis asked for a point of clarification.
Yeah.
And we're going to allow, under the leadership of our able superintendent and whomever else on our side, to work that process out.
And if I could share, I mean, we can have some exceptional students, but they just might not have an interest in science or mathematics that the Gov school might focus on. They might have more of an interest in theater or something else. So they might not have had an interest in that. But I think, and this is a point that I want to continue to reiterate, I think it's up to us to find these students and encourage these students to seek out the Gov school. I think that's within LCS, our responsibility to do.
And thank you, Mr. Harvey. And I think in that, as we go forward, with a clear message, I hope has been sent forward tonight, that change is difficult, or whatever we need to do. This is a statewide dilemma, not just Lynchburg. But there's some things they're going to have to look at differently. For instance, Gov schools across the Commonwealth have different areas that they focus on. You raised a good point. Maybe persons aren't interested in that. What do we need to look at to make sure that diversity can happen? We clearly understand equity as it relates to this issue. And that may or may not call for change. All right, I want to thank this school board. Dr. Edwards, we had a loaded schedule tonight, and we have worked through things in a very interesting way. And so at this point, I think we will go to superintendent comments.
Absolutely. So thank you for the very thoughtful and productive conversations and clarity and struggle. I mean, just like everything else, any good work requires some struggle. Jaden and Grayson stole most of what I was going to say, but that just goes to show that they're excellent student reps. It is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I always like to extend that to just be Staff Appreciation Week, Staff Appreciation Year, just in light of everything that has happened in the pandemic. It's been a year. I realized that when I was just sitting down, just kind of taking notes on, that's right, in the beginning we had a dream team, we had choice boards, we did this, we did that. So many things that we did in response to the pandemic early on that seemed so far away. And our staff have just been wonderful in every change that we have made, every response. So I do appreciate them and commend them for everything that they've done. They started out wonderful, so thank you, Dr. Brennan and Dr. Gupta, for joining me and a bunch of eager fourth graders in the heat outside as we surprised our Lynchburg City Schools Teacher of the Year, Rachel Parr, who is a T.C. Miller teacher. And you may remember Rachel, she was in the Breakfast with the Superintendent video as the teacher voice. So we managed to get her outside, and all of her students, myself, board members, the media, and staff were able to surprise her as Teacher of the Year. So it was a great moment to do that. And I think one of the questions was, what made her stand out? And I think I had to say she stood among many who were extraordinary and exceptional, and she is representing the best of Lynchburg City Schools and everything that she does, and her colleagues as well. And I am grateful that I did not have to be on that committee to select the Teacher of the Year, because that is probably one of the hardest jobs ever with that. I also want to thank the Ed Foundation and all of the members who helped put together our honor of our top 15 students in each school. I'm always worried how we do something virtually, but we managed to pull that one off and celebrate our students and their families. And what I love about that event is each student gets to pick a teacher or a staff member who made a difference in their life. And just the stories alone is enough to just keep you motivated and do everything that you can for kids. So kudos to everyone, and congratulations to our students. In addition to being Teacher Appreciation, May 6th starts Nurse Appreciation, and let's just say with everything COVID testing, quarantining, vaccinating, and everything that has happened, we certainly appreciate all of our nurses and the work that they have done. Library Media Specialist recognition as well going on, so I don't want to miss anybody or any group. And just to all of our students as we move towards graduation and move up and transitioning to the next level, we're going to get you there. It's been one heck of a ride, but we are determined to make next year bigger and better. Hold on, we can get to the end of this. You have been phenomenal as students, flexible and resilient and creative. And even today, when we lost power and had to hold the buses and everything, I was at Lincoln Elementary School with a group of kids, and they just made the day fun while we watched all the wind blow and the rain and everything. So kids will keep your hearts warm. So stay close to kids. Never forget that our mission is always about children. And as long as we stay focused on that, we'll do the right thing. So appreciate all of you and just want to say thank you to everyone for getting us to this point. We're in May, y'all. We didn't think we were going to make it, but we are in May. All right, Dr. C.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Really appreciate it. All right, we'll start with School Board Member Harvey. Board comments.
First off, I'd like to apologize to Dr. Nillis. I was not by any means wanting to bring question to his vote. More so, I thought maybe he might have had an idea of another location that we could go to, and that's why I was asking that question. I also want to send a shout out to Ms. Parr at TC Miller, Go Eagles, a school that's near and dear to my heart, and those guys are just awesome. All of the teachers there are awesome teachers, and she is an exemplar teacher representing all teachers in LCS. So again, a shout out to her. Also want to thank Jody Gillette and the Education Foundation for the awesome program that they put on last Sunday. Both Dr. Edwards and Dr. Coleman had great messages that they shared with not only the seniors, but also all of those of us who were lucky enough to be able to participate in that. And I thank the administration for inviting us to be able to participate in that. Also wanted to say I want to thank Ms. Pugh and all the members of the administration who are working hard to provide the summer programs for our students. I am just so impressed with the depth and variety of programs that we're offering to our students, and I just want to encourage our students to take advantage of those, not just if you were struggling, but also if you just want to be able to improve. It's an excellent opportunity there. And I want to send a shout out to the Y, thanking them for their partnership with us through the Power Scholars program. That's what it's all about, community work, different members of our community working together with our schools to help our students. So, thank them as well. And just one last shout out to all of our teachers. You're just awesome. It's hard to just say thank you all the time, but this year especially, they have been stretched, tried, they've just shown their flexibility and I would say just overall grit at educating our students to the best of their ability, facing all the obstacles they have. And I can't imagine any other profession that was tested as much as those in education this past year, and they have truly risen to the top. And I'm just honored to be able to say that I get to, in some fashion, represent that group. So.
Well said, sir. Dr. Gupta.
You really want me to say something? Okay.
Yes, please, before Dr. Gupta goes forward, the entire Lynchburg City School Board and family extends to you, Dr. Gupta, our sympathy, our prayers, and our support in the homegoing of your father, Dev Gupta, and you're a champion and your entire family, sir. And so we do want to say that to you tonight.
Thank you, and I want to move from my personal to my disappointment. I was disappointed today the vote because we have taken a step back. And I can see the city council pushing for diversity on this board, but what's the point when you appoint diverse board members and they don't represent the voice of those diverse students? That's how I see it. But I thank my two colleagues to come and join and send a message that we do believe in diversity, and don't push us, don't bully us to accepting something which you give us 3 more weeks and you may have more applications. And the time hurdle that you got to tell me by tomorrow, and that's the end of it, is just very disappointing and disheartening. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Sinha.
Well, I too would like to thank the teachers, not just on Teacher Appreciation Month, week, but all the time. They do extraordinary work and they take very good care of our children, and I am very grateful. I also want to give kudos to EC Glass for their theater production of Oklahoma. My wife and daughter and I were able to see the Saturday matinee, and it was extraordinary. I'm just so impressed with people who can act like that on stage and just look so natural and poised, and so that was impressive. And a special congratulations to EC Glass senior Jessica Williams, who has been admitted to Carnegie Mellon University College of Arts in their drama and design. Very, very, very competitive program to get into. And, you know, it reflects well on our schools when our students can get into highly competitive programs. I don't know, but a lot of Academy Award winners come out of Carnegie Mellon. Emmy Award winners, Tony Award winners. It's a very rich school in terms of its depth of talent and the quality of its alums. So really proud of her and the hard work that she did to get in. So way to go, Jessica.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha. Thank you, that was great. Dr. Nilles.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you to all the teachers out there for the whole year, administration, staff, everybody that helps keep the school system going, the buildings going. It's been certainly a unique year, hopefully one not to be repeated. I did enjoy the senior honors. I guess we used to call it a dinner, but it was a virtual event, and so thank you to Ms. Gillette for putting that on. I thought it went well, and you know, it's great to see this is what we're all here for. Is these are the kids that are succeeding, and everybody that's graduating, whether you're honor student, regular student, you know, there's students that have gone through alternative programs. Stick with it. You graduate. You accomplish something. Hold your head high. And move on and build on that. But so this is the time of year when that all happens, and this is the favorite time of the year to be on the school board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nilles. Dr. Brennan.
Just very briefly, I don't think I've ever disagreed with Dr. Edwards before, but I just have to say that I had the opportunity to spend from 9 o'clock yesterday morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon picking the Teacher of the Year time, and it's the high point of my time as being a school board member. We interviewed 20 different teachers from all different schools, as well as the Empowerment Academy and other facilities, and it's just amazing to see their enthusiasm and how good they are. And I want to thank the people who organized that, which was Tracy Foster and Lori Meadows and Marie Yeager participated in. And then as community members, we had Michael Kelly from the University of Lynchburg and Anthony Andrews as a community member. And clearly, Rachel Parr was a tough act for everybody to follow, and I know she'll be a great representative for Teacher of the Year for LCS, but it's a real treat to be on that committee, and it really shows us how great our teachers are as a small sliver of that large population. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brennan. Thank you. Dr. Carter.
I just want to congratulate all of the Dunbar poets who completed the book reading challenge. And I know they had one student highlighted on WSET, I believe, yesterday, but that was a great accomplishment. And again, I have to add a shout out to the teachers for Teachers Appreciation Week. And I know that during this time when students were home, I know a lot of parents realized just how valuable teachers are and wonderful they are. And also to the nurses, because nurses nowadays do things that you do in hospitals. They do catheters and other things that you wouldn't think that when I was going to school, I don't think we even had anything like that in glucose testing. So just shout out to them. And also to Mrs. Reeves and her team for continuing to go and visit the different apartment complexes and the different students. And to the Teacher of the Year, Rachel Parr, that is a great honor, and I congratulate her on that. And to the Education Foundation with Jody Gillette at the executive director, and also Grayson Arnold for her being here on the board, and she's also in track and field and other things, so that's a great accomplishment.
Thank you, Dr. Carter. Ms. Morrison.
Thank you. I also want to give a shout out to the cast and crew of Oklahoma. I saw it several times.
Wow.
They had different leads for different nights, and I am truly amazed at the talent and grateful to the professionals, our teachers who spend their time helping these students just feel so good about what they're doing. It was great. I also had the privilege of attending the unveiling and dedication of the Virginia Historical Highway Marker honoring Edward Christian Glass on Monday. And it was just great to be in the E.C. Glass Gymnasium, McHugh Gymnasium, and then to walk out and unveil the marker. What was the story of Dr. Glass, you can read in this handout. It's very well, and I'm sure that Glass has more. What amazed me was that 3 other principals came to this. Rose, of course, is there, but Dr. Jones also came back, and Dr. Richardson drove in from Pennsylvania to be at this unveiling and gave really nice comments about the work of Jane White, who really organized and pushed to get this marker outside of EC Glass. What impressed me, however, the most was the student Michaela Warwick, the class of 2016, EC Glass, and a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania in 2020. And her comments, she said, "I don't speak for all students, I can only speak for myself. But the experience that I had at this high school with teachers who cared, with administrators who supported, with counselors who pushed, got me there. And even after I was at the University of Pennsylvania, my former principal, Dr. Richardson, invited me to her house to wash my clothes."
Wow.
And so that kind of impact and that kind of push and pull really had an impact on this young lady. And when she graduated, she started a nonprofit working with young adults and students in Pennsylvania to help them deal with loss. And she said something to me. She said, you know, students are going to be returning to classrooms, and they're going to be looking at desks where students once sat that may not be there anymore, either through violence or the pandemic, and staff. And we have to look at what we can do to help them get to where they need to be. And it really made an impact on me. I hope that we can get her back to speak to students about her experience and what she gained from it. It was remarkable. I did not have her, but she said I had her mother. Like I said, grandchild.
Oh, wow.
But that she said her parents really supported her and pushed her to do the best that she could. And that was a true testament to the entire Lynchburg City Schools, which our teachers and staff and administrators do day in and day out. And we can't ever thank them enough for the time and effort and love that they give to our students. And we are truly grateful to be part of such a great group.
Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. Wow.
It was great.
My. All right, Mrs. Evans.
I don't, thanks.
None? Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Ms. Evans, for all that you do and everything. Dr. Carter?
Just want also to just say that our thoughts and prayers are with the family of Mrs. Rosa Jefferson.
Thank you so much. I had that right here on my computer to say. I underscore that. Thank you, Dr. Edwards, for attending, and whomever else. What a gift to Lynchburg City Schools. And wow, let's just keep it at that. We're doing a lot of talking with our school board members around the area, and I think that we are doing a great job here in Lynchburg. And looking forward to July the 16th, which will begin our Master Board series, and so please keep that in mind. All right, at this time, you can see the informational items that are before us, and if you will, I'll allow you to enjoy your own reading pleasure around those informational items from M. And at this time, the chair would let me read the language. At this time, pursuant to the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711A1, the school board needs now to convene a closed meeting for the purpose of discussing the following specific matter, the superintendent's evaluation. Is there a motion to go into closed meeting?
I move.
All right, Ms. Morrison has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Dr. Carter. Are there questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's take about 3 minutes to kind of stretch yourself, and we will retire to our regular closed meeting room. Thank the public for coming out and for your ongoing support.